Our main lead storms the Grand Hall, sentencing his own mother to the gallows. But why? She tried to have him poisoned, her own son. Thankfully, he barely survived the attempt. Of course, the Countess isn't backing down. She's ready to deny everything to his face. But our guy, he has a major ace up his sleeve. He drags in the very assassin she hired, forcing a full confession of her disgusting crimes. Still, the Countess shamelessly plays dumb, demanding some kind of concrete proof. Right then, his most loyal knight reveals a forged suicide note. Along with a memory scroll, a magical artifact that's about to expose the truth. Now she realizes her plan is ruined. Calyx is definitely not someone you want to mess with. What she hasn't figured out, yet, is that this isn't the same man. See, the original guy was a total loser, with absolutely nothing going for him. He spent his whole life staring at a computer screen because, let's be real, nobody actually wanted to be friends with him. Desperate to escape his trash reality, he starts streaming his gameplay. Turns out he's actually a god. Then, a mysterious developer sends him a high-difficulty game titled Hero's Destiny. Let's see where this goes. Since he's always dreamed of being a hero, he dives into the hardest mode possible, determined to finally achieve something great. Using the name Game Master, he starts tackling insane missions, but before he knows it, 10 entire years of his life have vanished while playing. Finally, after 10 long years of struggle, he finally clears the final stage. A message pops up, "Congratulations, you have officially joined the ranks of the gods." But looking around his empty room, he realizes his real life is still totally empty. Just then, a notification appears. It's an invitation to a brand new journey. He can travel to the continent of Ellen. The catch, no coming back until the game is cleared. Pumped it. He hits yes, and then boom, everything goes pitch black. He wakes up confused. A stern man is calling him Calyx, but our guy has no clue who he is. The man is stunned that his patient is asking who he is, especially since the healer never mentioned any amnesia side effects. Realizing the boy is genuinely lost, the man introduces himself as Russell. Now, our protagonist is spiraling. The language Russell is speaking, definitely not Japanese. In fact, it doesn't look like he's even in his own world at all anymore. Surprisingly, he understands every word clearly. But that's not the problem. His chest feels like it's literally on fire. He clutches his chest, writhing in agony. Russell apologizes for trying to rush things. However, he lets him know the pain is just a side effect of the potion, assuring him that the burning will eventually subside. Since he needs plenty of rest, Russell decides to head out, promising to check back in once morning arrives. Once he is finally alone, our lead starts piecing things together. He finally finds the strength to stand up and explore. Naturally, he heads straight for the mirror to see who's looking back. And just as he suspected, he's in a completely different body. Who is this guy? While he's struggling to process everything and wriggling in frustration, a familiar status screen suddenly flickers to life right in front of him. A status window appears. His name is Call Shaken, a 15-year-old noble. Current condition, not great. He is recovering from a deep stab wound to his chest. His approval rating is at a pathetic 14%. Even his combat prowess is bottom tier. Reality finally hits him. He is in the game world of Hero's Destiny, and that option to move to the Ellen continent was actually real. He is right on the edge of freaking out. But he forces himself to stay calm so he can assess the situation. One touch to his chest sends a bolt of pain through his entire body. He wonders why it hurts so much. Usually, this level of agony would wake someone up from even the deepest dream. This is no dream. Call is starting to realize this is his new reality. He decides to embrace it. His name is Call now. He repeats the name over and over so his brain doesn't forget. Moments later, he discovers he can summon the status screen just by thinking about it. It is a feature only he can see, and he's excited. He figures out that the first thing he needs to do is gather information. But there is a catch. He knows for a fact that if he drops his guard for even a second, he'll die here. He scans the data. He is Call Shaken, a member of the Shiken County. That makes him a direct part of the Count's family. He is still processing this when a sudden knock at the door startles him. Panic sets in. He has no idea what he is supposed to say. He is terrified that if anyone finds out he isn't the original call, it'll be off with his head. Wait. He composes himself and calls out, asking who is at the door. It is a maid. She says it is time for his medicine. He tells her to enter. She kneels immediately, urging him to drink while it is still warm. Everything is happening way too fast for him. He almost asks her name, but stops himself before he gives the whole game away. He triggers the status window, and it pops up right over the maid's head. Meet Leia, 23 years old, affiliated with Viscount Kasharin's territory. Her combat level is 3. But that's not what catches his eye. Leia doesn't belong to the Shaken family. She serves a rival Viscount. She lacks mana. But she's trained like elite special forces. She is the best at what she does. Why is a woman this dangerous working as a simple maid? Why is a foreign maid bringing him medicine while he is recovering? Instinct takes over. Drinking that is a huge mistake. He tells Leia to leave it on the table. She doesn't listen. With a smile, she insists he take it right now. He looks at the cup. Leia is literally trying to force this medicine down his throat. He isn't having it. He fakes a sudden spasm and throws the cup, hoping to spill the contents. But Leia is fast. She dives for the cup and saves every single drop. Call is absolutely stunned by those inhuman reflexes. Our hero quickly masks his face, knowing that if Leia catches a glimpse, she will see right through his act. She would realize that medicine did not spill by accident at all. While Leia insists the brew is perfectly safe for him to drink. Call is already spiraling through the worst-case scenario, knowing full well this drink is laced with deadly poison. He has zero intention of swallowing it, frantically searching for an exit from this life or death situation he is stuck in. Clutching his chest in fake agony, he watches as Leia leans in to comfort him with a fake smile. He thinks he has actually managed to fool her with his dramatic performance. Meanwhile, Kix takes a second to dig into the secrets of the Kasharin household that she is affiliated with. He figures out he is the son of the Count's first wife, a woman who sadly passed away a long time ago. It turns out he also has a half-brother from the Count's second wife. Only 16 years old. That is when he finally realizes the stepmother's name is Kasharin, and things just got very real. Leia is not just a maid. She is a trained assassin sent by that stepmother to finish a very specific job. If Call dies, there is nobody left to stand in the way of her own son's claim to the throne. Deep down, our main character is actually low-key fascinated. He just arrived in this world, and he is already uncovering a deep level of treason like a pro. Finally sitting back up, he tries to reassure Leia that he is actually feeling much better now. Then he flips the script, casually asking how his grandmother has been doing these days. Leia is visibly shaken by the sudden question, but she quickly forces herself to keep it together. She tells Kix the Countess was heartbroken after hearing about his recent attempt to take his own life. Leia claims she was only sent here to ensure another tragedy does not happen on her watch again. It finally clicks. The original owner of this body actually had some serious self-harming tendencies. Between the sharp pain and his status screen info, the truth becomes terrifyingly clear to him. The previous guy literally plunged a knife straight into his own chest. Talk about a brutal way to go. Call keeps playing along though, telling Leia he understands perfectly and won't be a bother to his stepmother anymore. Leia smiles back, saying the woman will be incredibly relieved to hear such news from him. He gives her the green light to leave, but she does not move an inch. She has no plans of going anywhere until she sees him drain every last drop of that medicine. It dawns on him that he is trapped. She won't budge until that poison is sitting in his stomach. He is in deep trouble. Saying no to a trained assassin while you're stuck in bed is a losing move. Despite having the soul of a 30-plus-year-old man, he is stuck in a weak teenage body. For a second, he thinks about screaming for help at the top of his lungs. But if he tries that, she might just kill him instantly. He starts to wonder, if just drinking the poison is literally the only option he has left to survive. But at the same time, he is left wondering why Leia would use slow poison instead of just stabbing him and ending it right now. He realizes Leia needs to keep things quiet to avoid drawing any unwanted attention to herself. The poison is designed to look like a suicide, making it seem like he finally finished the job he started. He even recognizes the toxin. It is called the slow creeping death. From his years of playing Hero's Destiny, he knows one thing for sure. Always expect the worst, because in this room, she is definitely going to force that cup down his throat. There is no escaping it. Call knows the game is not about to just let him have his way. It is clear that this system is not going to give him an easy win this early on. With no other choice, he grabs the cup and empties the entire thing into his stomach. Once he finishes the drink, his mind starts racing to find a way out of this total disaster. That's when it hits him. Russell mentioned a high-level potion earlier. He barks at Leia to go find Russell immediately, but the confused maid asks why. Call just snaps, screaming if he really needs to explain himself to a lowly maid. Leia tries to apologize, but Call isn't having it. He just bellows at her to move her feet right now. With her gone, he scrambles up to search for that potion. Russell didn't seem like the type to actually kill him, so the cure must be here somewhere. First, he tries to force himself to throw it all up, but his body just won't cooperate. It's settled then, finding that hidden potion is his only chance. This game might be brutal, but there's always a solution if you look hard enough. He begins tearing the entire room apart, hunting for that vial. But every drawer and cupboard comes up empty. Then, the poison kicks in full force, sending him crashing to the floor in agony. His vision begins to fade. Darkness is closing in fast. He can't help but wonder what actually happens when the end comes. Will he just hit a restart point, or is this really game over for good? Suddenly, he spots a bottle tucked away in the corner, and his eyes lock onto it. Through the pain, he drags himself across the floor, desperate to see what's inside. He pops the lid, and a foul stench hits him like a physical blow to the face. It's not a potion at all, just a jar of absolutely spoiled goat milk. But wait, he remembers that in the game, yogurt was the antidote for this specific slow-acting death. Can this rotten milk count as yogurt? It's a massive gamble, but it's all he has. With less than a minute left on the clock, he's out of time. He has no choice. He has to chug the disgusting liquid and pray it works. He refuses to die here, not before he gets even with Leia for setting him up. As the last of the milk goes down, everything turns pitch black and he loses consciousness. When he finally wakes up, Russell is looming over him, exactly like the first time. He assumes he hit a reset point, but Russell just looks at him like he's lost his damn mind. Russell doesn't care about resets though. He's too busy screaming about the state of his trashed room. He gestures at the absolute chaos and tells him to at least try and act like a decent human being. Russell also wants to know why he was out cold on the floor, ignoring every attempt to wake him up. He was so panicked, he almost summoned a healer before the boy finally opened his eyes. While Russell continues his lecture, Call just lies there, haunted by the chilling sensation of his own heart stopping just moments ago. He makes a silent vow, no matter what it takes, he is going to survive this world. To play it safe, he decides to pull up Russell's status screen. According to the system, the man is 58 years old and is currently serving as the acting count until the succession drama is finally resolved. Turns out he's quite the powerhouse too, boasting a B rank when it comes to his military stats. Apparently, Russell is only filling the seat because the previous head died without naming a proper successor. Looking at how strict the man is, our lead wonders if he can actually trust him. On top of this, he even used a legendary potion just to save his life. Call finally calls out Russell's name before explaining the whole situation that happened to him. After hearing exactly what Klex has to tell him, Russell is disappointed that there is no proof. Now Call realizes Russell is not an impartial person. Essentially, he was only following the rules, and that is exactly why he saved him. Russell tells Kix that he views him and Grunbein as equals, so he serves them both fairly. Kix is fuming. He asks Russell if he should really keep taking medicines sent by his rival. Russell simply asks Klex if he has lost his memory, because the family is currently facing serious financial trouble and a tight budget. Russell says it is actually a blessing that Leia is even helping out with the family business. T then asks Kix if he truly forgot all this, or if he is just pretending he did. Call ignores the chatter and starts thinking of how to find evidence against Leia, who poisoned him. Call tells Russell to forget the talk, but says he has one simple request to make. When Russell hears this, he realizes Call is acting completely different from the man he knew. 4 hours later, Leia is seen leaping across the rooftops like a hooded Batman in the dark. She notices the security is much tighter, so she realizes she needs to improvise her plan. She sneaks into Call's room through a manhole and is surprised to find it completely unguarded. She looks around and spots the shape of a body tucked under the blankets on Call's bed, giving her the impression that the target is finally dead. She concludes that Call died peacefully since she used a specialized poison to take him out. She pulls a note from her pocket and places it carefully on the table. Then she starts searching for Klex's seal so she can stamp the note. Once that is done, she figures the only thing left is to make it out safely. Suddenly, a voice behind her tells her not to even think about making a move. Before she can even react, a sharp sword is already pressed against her neck. Leia recognizes the voice and tries to play it cool despite the blade. She tells Russell it is too late because Klex is dead and the family belongs to Grunbein. As she tries to convince Russell, Kix's voice suddenly echoes through the room, saying that everything went exactly as he had expected. Leia nearly faints from shock when she turns and sees Kix standing there healthy and even smiling at her. Call mentions that he is well aware of how common poisoning is in these noble families. He picks up the note Leia left, saying there will be huge trouble if it gets out. Realizing she is trapped, Leia tries to fight her way out, but Russell easily shuts down her attack. Russell shows her exactly who is boss by grabbing her hand and squeezing it until she screams in pain. He doesn't stop there. He delivers a brutal punch to her back to cause even more damage. Call is stunned to finally witness the massive power gap between the 3 class stages. After Russell is finished restraining her, Call reminds Leia that anyone trying to kill a noble gets executed, even if they are nobles themselves. There was zero proof before, but this note that Illa brought is more than enough evidence. And as for witnesses, Kix points to Leia, letting her know that she is the best one. While Call is busy mocking her, she suddenly collapses to the dirt, prompting Kix to ask Russell what happened. Russell simply replies that the girl fainted. Russell checks her mana hole and realizes that Leia actually lacks the ability to use any mana-breathing techniques at all. Russell notes Leia is only elite soldier level. This means they do not even need high-speed mana restraints to keep her down. Russell is shocked that Kix does not react to this news at all. It is strange. He wonders if Kix already knew her secret. He remembers feeling something was very wrong. When he was told to stay low, it all starts to explain Kix's very unusual behavior lately. Russell wonders exactly how much Kix really knows. Call tells Russell to tie her up. He still has plenty of questions for this mysterious girl. Russell follows his orders and ties Leia firmly to a chair. The arm Russell grabbed is horribly swollen like a balloon, with blood ready to pop from the skin. When Leia finally wakes, the first person she sees is Call standing there. Before she even fully recovers, Call begins explaining how long the creeping death poison takes to kill someone. He says it is a poison that is perfect for suicide since you die without feeling any pain. Since Call once tried to end his own life before, no one would have been surprised if he actually died from this specific poison. Call tells Leia she might have succeeded if she used fast poison and had the actual resolve to die with him. Call grabs Leia by the mouth and demands to know why she stayed alive. Basically, Kix sees that Leia lacks the loyalty to give her life for Grunbein's mother, Lady Stella. Leia stays silent, so Call orders Russell to step in and make her talk. Russell walks over and forces Leia's mouth open with a grip. Call suddenly produces a dark pill surrounded by a very strange, eerie aura. With her open, Kix tosses the pill inside. The smell alone is so foul it nearly makes her choke. To ensure she swallows it, Kix pours water down her throat until she has no choice. Russell assists by clamping her mouth shut so she cannot spit any of it out. Once they force the pill down her, Leia screams at Call, demanding to know what he just made her drink. Call calmly says it is poison. He asks if she is familiar with the deadly toxin known as Citus puppet. Hearing the name, Leia screams out. She claims it is impossible for Kix to find such a thing, as even nobles struggle to get it. Kix replies that as long as you have enough gold, you can buy anything. He then mentions a key ingredient in the poison is actually radish. This strange comment leaves both Leia and Russell looking completely confused. Leia finally finds words, saying she cannot believe Kix's nonsense. Call ignores her and says he is letting her go for now. But first, she must tell her master that the assassination attempt was a total success. Leia is shocked he thinks she will obey him, but Kix just asks if she is ready to die. Kix explains that the pill she swallowed has over 3,000 variations and 3,000 antidotes. The specific antidote she needs is locked inside his head. If she wants to live, she must listen. She needs to follow his instructions. Call asks for her final word. She snaps back that she is in, then demands Russell untie her right now. Call is not feeling that attitude, though. After all, he is the one holding her life in his hands. Sensing the danger, Leia immediately switches gears, begging Klex to please set her free. Call just ignores her pleas as she cries for mercy, claiming her stomach is doing literal backflips. Basically, she really needs to find a bathroom. Inside, Kallex is laughing. Turns out that spoiled goat milk he secretly fed her is working perfectly. Finally, Call tells Russell to cut the ropes. Russell is hesitant, though. This girl literally tried to end him just a few minutes ago. Call reminds him that Leia is a vital witness. Because of that, they have to treat her with some basic human dignity. Russell looks confused, since when did Call care about dignity? But Leia's desperate screaming for help snaps him back to reality. A few moments later, Leia is free. Call orders her to report to Stella and claim the assassination was a total success. Once she is gone, Call realizes that to truly fool Stella, they need an inside man who can sway the Knight's order. He is deep in thought when Russell suddenly speaks up, breaking the silence. Call can tell the guy is dying to ask a million questions, and you and I saw this coming. Russell finally asks, where did he get all this incredible knowledge in the first place? Call just shrugs. Would he believe it if Call said he just read it all in a book? Russell is not buying it. Writing a book like that would be a straight-up death sentence for any author. Beyond that, there is no way a banned book like that would just be sitting around this castle. Knowing Russell won't believe the whole other world story, Call decides it is time for a different approach. Call asks Russell if he remembers the dagger he used to stab himself earlier. Russell says yes, but he is completely lost as to why this matters right now. That is when Call spins a lie. He claims the blade is a family heirloom from his mother, a dagger said to hold a mysterious, hidden power. By stabbing himself, he supposedly unlocked that power and gained all this forbidden knowledge. Looking at Russell's face, though, Call can tell the guy is not believing a single word. Call doubles down. He admits it sounds weird that the only way to wake the weapon's power was to literally shove it into his own chest. Now watch this play out. Russell points out that if such an epic item existed, the whole world would know about it. Call leans in, asking Russell if he has ever heard of a legendary blade called Claire's dagger. Russell is stunned. Is he saying that was really the legendary dagger of Claire? Seeing that reaction, Call knows he has got Russell exactly where he wants him. The trap is set. Russell starts praising the young Master Kix for his immense knowledge and deep insight. But here is the catch. Kix has never actually seen the real Claire's dagger in his life. Russell then. He steps closer, asking if anyone else knows about the secret. Kix tells him he is the very first person to hear it. Kix then asks, does Russell really believe that his father, a top-tier knight, died from a simple, random monster attack? And somehow, every single knight guarding him died too. Klex wants to know if he buys that garbage story. Russell realizes right then, Klex is looking for his support. Russell knows he should stay neutral, but he can't ignore the truth any longer. When it comes to his former boss's death, everything about it feels completely suspicious and wrong. Even if there is no proof. He is a soldier of principle, doing everything he can to avoid getting dragged into the dirty world of politics. Russell goes to speak his mind, but Call suddenly cries out in total agony. He demands to know why his father had to die. Then he flashes a truly evil smile. He looks at Russell, asking how they will take revenge once they finally track down the person who killed the Lord. Call insists his father was murdered, and the Casherin family is the one pulling the strings. If Grunbein takes over the house, all their hopes for payback are gone for good. But at the same time, he does not believe they should just give up just because the situation has gotten difficult. Kelix asks Russell if he can really follow a family that plotted to assassinate his own boss. Those words hit Russell like a physical blow, forcing the great warrior down to his knees. Right there, he swears his absolute loyalty to Klex. Klex is ready to celebrate his win when Russell stops him with a warning. He tells Klex not to mistake this for him forgetting his beliefs, he is just putting them aside. Call could not care less about any of that right now. He is just thrilled the strongest warrior in the territory has finally become his ally. Call realizes promising vengeance was exactly what he needed to break Russell's resolve. He tells Russell to lift his head. There is no need for formal oaths since Call does not have a proper title yet. Then Russell makes a vow. He promises Kix he's going to make sure he grows truly strong. Call is happy, but he needs to change the subject before Russell starts suggesting some insane special training. Since Stella was sloppy enough to leave evidence after her poisoning attempt, the trap is set. Kix knows he finally has everything he needs to wipe out Stella's entire faction. Just thinking about it makes Kix smile. This is just the prologue to his ultimate vengeance. Russell asks what his role is in all this, and Kelix breaks down the master plan. A bit later, Stella gathers the officials in the council room, wearing a smug smile because she thinks she has won. Some officials are confused. Why is Stella sitting right on the throne? That is when Stella drops the bomb. She claims Call tried to end his own life with poison. Hearing this, the officials assume Call is as good as dead. One official tells Stella that with Kix gone, their faction is basically history. Another says they need to start building new connections immediately. One guy foolishly asks who the next count will be, but his colleague says it is already decided. This clueless guy still thinks Stella is going to rule, while Klex is in his room prepping a surprise. Hey. He asks if Russell is ready, and the man swears to follow him anywhere. Russell is already decked out in his knightly armor, longsword gripped firmly at his side. Stella is basking in her glory when Call suddenly walks in, sending a wave of terror through her. To make matters worse, Russell is right behind him, just by stepping into the room. They command an overwhelming aura. Stella is left stammering, demanding to know how this happened while the other officials watch in shock. They cannot believe Russell is actually standing behind Call. Kix walks right up to Stella and tells her that throne she is sitting on, it definitely doesn't suit her. Stella tries to act cool, asking Call how he's feeling. Kix decides to play the long game here, flashing her a bright smile while explaining he actually drank poison and somehow survived. Call tells Stella that she was way too hasty with her plans. But Stella yells back, telling him to stop making such misleading statements. Stella tells Kix it's wrong to call her a murderer when he never accepted her as a mother. Stella jumps to her feet and slams the table hard. She warns Kix that she is not going to let this slide. This is the Grand Hall, and Klex must answer for his actions. Call just smiles when he hears that. He tells Stella that even while being exposed, she remains remarkably composed. Deep down, Stella is terrified because she has no idea what Kix is plotting. On the outside, she acts cool, asking Kix exactly what he is talking about. Call ignores her and claps his hands, which is the signal to bring in Leia so everyone can hear her story. When Stella sees her, she nearly faints, desperately praying this girl isn't Leia. Call then asks the girl exactly what her name is. And she answers truthfully. Stella starts sweating, wondering why on earth Leia is even here in the first place. Leia explains she is a first-rank agent of the Kashurin Family Shadow Corps Special Operations Unit. Call asks her to explain what the Shadow Corps is. She explains it's a special unit for orphans with combat talent, all subjected to extreme and brutal training at the Gorda Highlands camp. She says only the strongest survivors are selected and sent to various locations with fake identities. Call then asks her what her false identity was in the Shikin Count's territory. Leia comes clean, saying she was posing as Stella's personal maid. When she says this, Stella nearly loses her mind with rage, but Call isn't done with his questions. He asks if Stella knew her true identity. Leia gives a simple yes. Stella can't take it anymore, screaming that this is all just a conspiracy. Leia worked for her for 5 years, and now Klex says she is a spy. Even the officials think that Call is just talking trash. But one of them knows they're done for. Klex actually has a witness now. That's the financial supervisor, Gidro. He yells at Russell, asking if he's really going to believe some lowly maid's word. Russell replies that Leia is no maid, but a criminal caught red-handed. He reminds everyone that Leia herself just admitted being a spy for the Kashurin family. Gidros hears this and realizes he has nothing to say against Russell's words. Another council member screams at Gidros. He tells him to stop protesting because the criminal is currently speaking to them. Gidros has no choice but to back off, staring daggers at Stella. She is totally confused and has no idea what to do now. Call keeps the pressure on. He asks Leia about her mission as a maid. Leia explains she reported gathered info monthly. Call asks exactly what kind of info. Leia says her major mission was always focused on. First up, the financial ledgers Gidros cooked up regarding the territory's money. She also hand-delivered the travel routes and schedules of the late Count Corrin. But wait, there's actually more. She was even tracking every political move within the vassal's inner circle. Even Russell's blood is boiling listening to everything Leia's revealing here. Call asks about her latest job. She admits she tricked Kix into drinking a slow-acting poison. And then, she planned to plant a fake suicide note in Kix's room to stage his entire death. Kix keeps digging. He asks for the result. Leia says she successfully poisoned him. But when she went back to finish the job, Russell caught her. Stella can't take it anymore. She screams at Leia to shut her mouth. She lunges across the table, trying to attack Leia. But her son Grunbein and another official quickly hold her back. Stella demands to see proof. Little does she know, she just walked into a trap. Call signals Russell to bring out the evidence. Russell pulls out the forged suicide note Leia was going to use on Call. He confirms he caught Leia red-handed trying to plant it. Then, he reveals a mysterious scroll known as the Earth's Memory. He looks at them, asking if they recognize this artifact. This magic scroll reveals the wicked intentions of anyone who touches it through visions. Russell explains the magic will show exactly who gave Leia her orders. The truth is about to be exposed for everyone. Gidro sees this. He panics, wondering if they should just silence everyone in the room to hide the truth. The atmosphere gets even heavier as the officials wonder what's coming next. Suddenly, Call summons the knights waiting just outside the doors. The knights march in, standing behind the officials like a wall of steel. Someone screams that the knights have no business here since the hall belongs to the guards. Stella. She's terrified. Gidros demands to know what Russell is actually trying to pull. Russell says he's already seen the scroll's contents, and they're horrifying. He wanted to avoid a scene. That's why he brought the knights in. An official yells that this is basically a coup, bringing soldiers into the Grand Hall. Meanwhile, the son Grunbein The useless fatso looks at his mother for some kind of help. Stella realizes she's done for. The knights are always strictly neutral. Their presence means the proof is undeniable. She knows Kikes must have even more cards up his sleeve. Kike smiles. He asks Russell what the penalty is for trying to kill a relative. Russell's answer is cold, death by hanging, according to the law. Just hearing those words, Stella can already feel the noose tightening. All right, she immediately grabs her son, claiming Grunbein has no idea what's really happening. Stella's pride shatters instantly. She starts begging Call for mercy, even admitting she isn't his mother. Call just smiles. He calmly asks Illa if Stella is telling the truth about Grunbein having zero knowledge of the mission. Leia crashes the party, revealing that Grunbein was there during the entire mission briefing. That basically seals Stella's fate, and Kix knows it. Stella screams in frustration, calling Leia's claim a complete and total lie. And honestly, it was a lie. But Klex doesn't care. They are the cowards who tried to end his life. With them right where he wants them, you can see his plan finally working. Watching the drama play out. Grunbein walks forward. His mother screams at him, desperately trying to stop her son's advance. Instead, Grunbein bows before Kix, leaving every official in the room absolutely stunned. They try to shout him down. But Grunbein ignores them, telling Kix he will accept any punishment if he just spares his mother. Stella realizes that things are going south fast. She shrieks at her son, ordering him to get back to his seat. Some of the officials think Call is taking things way too far. They are also impressed that Grunbein would go this far for his mother. Klex realizes the room is changing. Suddenly, he is the one being made out to look like the villain. He wonders if this pathetic display was their plan all along. But Call handles it. He crouches down by his brother, whispering that he knows how to handle his mother, giving him no choice left. He tells Grunbein to just admit his guilt, and his punishment will be lightened. He promises to plead with Russell to take the death penalty off the table. But he warns him, once you say it, there is no going back. Realizing things are dire, Grunbein tells Kix he won't confess to something he didn't do. Stella cuts him off, screaming at Call for daring to give orders to his older brother right now. One of the high-ranking officials bursts out laughing, reminding Stella she tried to murder Call, yet she is still worried about which brother is older. Gidros is stunned. Stella just destroyed their chance right as the wind was shifting in their favor. Without skipping a beat, Call orders his knights to arrest Stella. Stella thinks it is a joke, until they slam her against the table and gag her mouth to keep her quiet. Watching his mother being treated like a criminal, Grunbein's last bit of pride finally shatters. Call looks him in the eye and asks if he finally confesses to the attempt on his life. Grunbein has no choice. He quietly says yes. Kix isn't even surprised. He was waiting for this confession. Call announces that since he admitted the crime, he has decided not to use the memory of the earth, which would have tarnished the family's honor. He also mentions that confessing before the evidence is shown means his final sentence is going to be reduced. However, Klex tells Grunbein he must close his monohull to prove he won't be making any further appeals. Hearing this, Grunbein panics. He knows exactly what this implies. You see, in this world, becoming a knight and entering the ruling class requires one thing. Using mana to enhance your physical body is the absolute only way. That's why closing a mana hall is basically a social death penalty. As Grunbein realizes the stakes, his heart sinks. He looks at his mother, desperately wishing she could just give him a sign. Stella tries to scream, but the gag in her mouth keeps her silent. He worries that the only way to bury his mother's crimes and dodge the death penalty is to seal his own mana hole. Stella. She sees the agony in her son's eyes and begins to scream with everything she has. But no one can hear her desperate pleas through that thick cloth gag. Stella knows for cert that shutting down a mana hole is a total death sentence for any noble. But Grunbein isn't thinking about the long-term consequences like his mother is. He tells Kix that he's made his choice because a promise must be kept, no matter what. Russell gives the boy a scroll to bite down on, while he prepares to seal that mana hole. Tears stream down Stella's cheeks. She knows that once a mana hole is finally closed, not even a grandmaster can reopen it. Grunbein's entire future is about to be erased forever. But the boy is already committed. He's no psychic, so he can't hear his mother's frantic thoughts. In mere minutes, his massive mana hole vanishes, sealing tight right before the shocked onlookers. Despair washes over Stella's face. She knows his life as a knight is officially over. Meanwhile, Grunbein doesn't really feel much physical pain at all. He actually feels at peace, believing he's made the best possible choice to protect his mother. Stella watches him heartbroken. Her son is loyal, sure, but he is just so painfully naive. Grunbein turns back to her, telling her not to worry, saying his real dream was always to become an artist. But then, fueled by pure rage, Stella spits out her gag and curses Kix, screaming that she'll rip him apart. Call knows the gravity of his actions. Without mana, no amount of training can save a person's career. No matter how hard you train, you will never surpass the level of a third-class knight. This means Grunbein will never even reach Leia's current power level. Still, Call is suddenly hit with the crushing guilt of stealing the future from a kid barely in middle school. But he kills that thought. You and I know it feels real, but he sees only game pixels. Russell notices the strange look on Call's face and wonders what's going on with him. Call. He finally gathers himself. There's no point in looking back now, they've already crossed the line. He tells Russell that they need to move forward and finish this trial once and for all. Russell then announces that until the full investigation into the assassination attempt is finally wrapped up, both Stella and Grunbein are strictly banned from having any outside contact. They're being sent straight to the annex to be imprisoned. As the judgment falls, you and I watch as guards escort the pair out of the room. With them gone, Russell gets back to exposing the truth. Next up, Gidros is being accused of leaking top-secret documents. He's stripped of his title and hauled away for further questioning immediately. Russell bellows for the knights to haul Gidros away, and they obey him instantly. Jedros pleads for mercy, swearing he has no ties to the rebel faction. He tries to fight the knights, but one of them lands a brutal blow to his stomach, silencing him instantly. Call watches on, impressed by the efficiency, but things are just starting. The other officials are trembling now, terrified after seeing exactly how their colleague was dealt with. Right then, they wonder why Kix needs someone like Russell to confirm his moves. This proves the entire Order of Knights has finally thrown their weight behind Kix. This means the internal power struggle has already reached its conclusion. It hits them that Call is using Russell to send us all a very clear warning. Russell turns to the Chief of Security, coldly announcing his immediate suspension and an order for his strict confinement. Not only that, Russell warns him to stop causing trouble by speaking with anyone from the outside. Knowing the punishment is justified, the man stays silent and accepts his fate without argument. Suddenly, Guard, the chief administrator, stands up to face the room. He claims that everything falling apart is due to his own failure in management. Garrett then reveals he is officially turning in his resignation. But Call realizes losing Garrett would be a massive blow, considering how much the rest of the staff respects him. Sensing Call's thoughts, Russell immediately tells Garrett that his request to resign is strictly denied. Instead, Russell hands him a list containing the names of everyone involved in this mess. He orders Garrett to review the names and immediately suspend every single person on that list. Furthermore, he reminds Garrett to ensure this purge doesn't slow down the hiring of new staff. A bit later, Klex explains that, with the exception of 4 financial officers required by the Bureau, every other official is now subject to a heavy investigation. Then Garrett begs Klex for leniency, fearing that the high-ranking nobles will flee if the pressure gets too high. But Klex refuses to budge. He is determined to pack the finance department with qualified people he can truly trust. Call interjects, asking Garrett if he really thinks it is okay. Should the investigation be ignored just to keep the daily operations running as usual? Garrett is stunned by the cold logic. Call just smirks, asking if those officials would even be grateful for mercy. That question stings. Garrett tries to argue that the officials simply made a poor choice in their loyalties. Right then, Klex makes it absolutely clear that his mind is made up. In that moment, Garrett realizes the naive boy they once controlled is long gone. The remaining officials finally understand they are finished now that Russell and Garrett have both sided with Call. Seeing their terror, Call lets out a dark smile. The countdown to the ultimate power struggle has begun. Before making his final move, Call begins scanning their stats. Garrett is a master of organization, possessing top-tier administrative and financial skills. With the stats reviewed, Call wears a wicked grin. He now knows everything he needs to dismantle these corrupt officials. Garrett might think this process will take a while. But Call disagrees. You and I know he can read these men like an open book. With this, he's sure every rival faction will be wiped out, including the snakes hiding their true motives. Call is only looking for survivors who can pass his brutal loyalty test. The officials notice that unsettling smile on his face, and pure terror hits them. They know they're dead meat if Call decides they're useless. This pressure immediately forces the panicked officials to start lobbying Kix, desperately claiming they've always been the good guys. Call plays this whole situation perfectly, telling the frantic group to relax since they have all the time in the world. After that exhausting day, Kel finally retreats to his room and collapses onto the bed. He thinks back to his life in Japan, a total nobody who didn't matter to anyone. That's why he dove into the game, hoping that clearing it would finally make him special. Once he finally cleared the game, he wished to be reborn on the Ellen continent, since his real life was just too ordinary. Suddenly, Call realizes his old wish might have actually come to pass without him even knowing it. When he first started, the system told him his soul was small and totally insignificant. But if he could survive the chaos and become a true hero, earning a seat among the gods, any single wish he wanted would be granted. Kick bolts upright. The game must have actually granted his silent prayer after all. As he lies there trying to sleep, he wonders if he'll get another wish if he clears this reality as well. Determined, Kix vows to conquer this world. The next morning, Kix wakes up and stands by the window to soak in the morning sun, wondering what to do first. He knows the Earl's entire territory quite well, but he's never once heard of this Shikken territory before. Call decides to pull up the map to figure out his current location. The system reveals he's earned a massive bonus for previously conquering the entire Ellen continent. Essentially, all map markers are now displayed, and Kix blushes really hard because his screen just transformed into a treasure map. Everything is on display now, including every ruin, dungeon, and hidden terrain feature in the entire game. Kix realizes this is a secret clear bonus, since absolutely nobody else ever finished the game. Best of all, it even includes top-secret info Kix never knew during his first playthrough. Kellix lies back, feeling confident that this journey is going to be a breeze. But then a sudden thought stops him cold. What year is it? He checks the date and sees it is currently Imperial Year 289. That's weird. Hero's destiny isn't supposed to start until Imperial Year 294. This basically means he's early, and he wonders if this territory just vanished within 5 years. Call starts to panic, even if he doesn't know the exact cause. He suspects that the terrible finances, just like Russell warned him, were probably the main reason. Call wonders if being too broke for a maid was why he almost got assassinated. He decides to check the official financial records, and to his absolute horror, he finds something so soul-crushing, he can only hold his head in despair. Seeing how empty the vaults are, he briefly considers just running off with the remaining cash. But he drops the idea fast. You can't exactly pack up a whole territory and run. Kix realizes he can finally start earning serious cash again. But here's the catch, only his family can inherit this land. Giving up now would be a total waste after all his effort, so he starts digging through the financial records. He quickly notices something strange. The taxes from these farmlands aren't really that different from other territories. Interestingly, the national defense budget only saw a temporary spike this past year. Call doesn't see any issues here. But then his focus shifts to the estate bonds. Naturally, he starts complaining reading boring documents is exhausting work. Then he spots the first major problem. The biggest issue is that trade with the Madrosa Desert Kingdom beyond the highlands has been totally cut off. Now, you'd expect some losses here. Naturally, cutting off international trade means a massive drop in customs duties for the entire region. Still, Kel can't wrap his head around how they managed to borrow such a massive amount of money. Basically, the annual interest on their debt actually exceeds the total taxes they collect in a year, and he realizes there's more. The more he digs, the more data he finds, but the best move right now is gathering real information. Suddenly, it hits him. Gedros is currently locked up in the underground prison. Without wasting a single second, Call gears up and heads straight to the underground prison to squeeze some answers out of Gedros. He reaches the cell and finds a guard who's completely shocked to see him down there. Call immediately orders the guard to lead him to the prisoner's cell. The stench is absolutely revolting. It's clear the sewage system hasn't been attended to in a very long time. As they walk, the guard keeps rambling about how surprised he is that Call actually showed up. Our main character just ignores him, knowing this guy is just a low-level guard who bows to power. When the guard notices the silence, he starts getting visibly worried. Call decides to turn up the pressure. He asks the guard if it's right to pardon the innocent ones among those they've captured. The guard panics and quickly agrees, saying he's absolutely right about that. Call pushes further, saying if a dangerous criminal was ever set free, they should be hunted down and reinvestigated immediately. He hands this mission to the guard, who immediately salutes Kix like a loyal soldier. He promises that he is definitely up to the task. Kix finds it hard to believe how fast this guy betrayed the chief he was loyal to just to serve a new leader. But Kix isn't worried at all, since he plans to use this guy's loyalty for everything it's worth. Call also tells the warden to drop the formalities, since he isn't officially the lord yet. The man apologizes, but Kix just tells him to get moving toward the cell. As they get closer to the cell, Kix hears Gedros complaining about the disgusting prison food, clearly convinced that he's going to be released from this place very soon. Call suddenly appears and shocks him, asking if he's already cooked up an escape plan. Gedros just smirks, telling Kix he's been waiting for this, claiming that the main character actually owes him one. Kix is genuinely confused and asks the guy what on earth he's talking about. Kix just tells him he'll make sure the hanging goes smoothly, since his execution is coming up anyway. Gedros starts acting smug, saying he might look like a frail old man. But he has been managing the estate's finances for over 20 years now. He even claims he gets why Kix took his sweet time coming down to visit. His cocky attitude really ticks off Call, who reminds him he is just a former officer. Gedros figures Kix is just here to ask about the massive debt, but acting this bold only makes Kix angrier. He sees that Gedros still does not know his place, so he asks the warden if they have a torture expert available. The warden nervously says they do, so Kix demands that he bring the man in right now. The warden is totally confused, asking if Kix really wants the expert this second. Kix just snaps, asking if he looks like a joker. The warden finally realizes Kix is not playing around and sprints off to find their best torture guy. Call sees through the act. Gedros thinks he is the real power here and can just smooth talk his way out. But meanwhile, the reality of the situation starts hitting Gedros, and he begins shaking in his boots. Call starts teasing him, saying a guy like him probably has zero endurance for pain. But he is still excited to see how long he lasts. He tells him that if he shows some actual grit, he might give him a slow death instead of just hanging him like a criminal. Seeing that terrifying smile, Gedros realizes this guy is dead serious, and he is in deep trouble. He starts begging, pleading for his life by promising he has some extremely valuable information. He claims he has an opportunity that will make them an absolute fortune. Kix thinks the old man is just stalling for time, but at the same time, he is a little curious. Jedros then spills that the family's entire debt is owed to a merchant named Gerard Massaz. Apparently, this Gerard guy manages the secret vault for the whole Kassarin family. Basically, the family used Gerard to hide mining taxes that were supposed to go to the royals. Call is not impressed yet and asks what that has to do with him. Jedros explains that exposing this treason would mean they would not have to repay the debt. But then Call points out that Gerard could just sell the debt rights for cheap before the guards even arrive. He might even sell them back to the Kassarin family themselves. Jedros starts stuttering because he clearly did not think his plan through that far. Just then, the warden returns with the most terrifying torture expert in the entire territory. Kix is pumped and even gives a little fist bump. Jedros, however, starts screaming for mercy, yelling that the family's slush funds alone should be worth over 1 million gold coins. Now that finally gets Kix to pay some attention. But even that is not enough. Kix just shrugs and looks away, realizing he is about to be left alone with the scary guy and his tools. Jedros screams his lungs out, saying he knows exactly where Gerard's secret vault is. Call ignores the crying and lets the torture expert walk right into the cell. And right then, Jedros explains that his years as a financial officer gave him a front-row seat to the vault's secret location. Kix finally decides to listen, giving the desperate man a chance to speak his mind at last. Kix is genuinely curious. How exactly did he manage to track down such a secret location? Jedros is stunned. It is a question he simply cannot answer with a straight face. Call suggests a more direct method. Maybe cutting off a few fingers will make him talk. Jedros instantly loses it, frantically promising Kix that he'll tell him every single little thing. He confesses he knows the spot because he once tried to rob it, and failed spectacularly. Kix asks him, did he go personally? No, he reveals he actually hired some professional thieves to take the gold. Kix demands to know the price of the job, and Jedros reveals it cost him exactly 3,000 gold coins. Kix hears the amount and feels his brain cells dying. The stupidity is truly on another level. As Jedros watches Kix's expression, he completely spirals into a panic, certain that his life is officially over right now. Kix just starts laughing. Even the warden assumes his anger is so intense that it has finally turned into laughter. Kelix notes that 3,000 gold is worth half the territory's entire yearly tax revenue. This raises a very important question. Where on earth did Jedros get that kind of money? Call doesn't even Jedros a second to speak, before concluding he just embezzled it all from the family treasury. Jedros can't even deny it. He just begs, saying he had absolutely no other choice. He swears he would have succeeded in his plan if the vault key hadn't been a magical crystal ball. Hearing the mention of a crystal ball, Call demands to know every single detail about this mysterious object. Jedros reveals he was told that making a duplicate of that ball would cost 2,500 gold. Call tells the man he's been scammed. Jedros is hit with a wave of pure shock. Call points out that Gerard and those thieves were almost certainly working together the whole time. Jedros refuses to believe it. He claims he personally verified the vault entrance with his very own eyes during the job. In fact, he watched Gerard open the secret door using that magical crystal ball himself. Kelix finally asks for the location. Jedros admits the vault is hidden in the Gorda Highlands. However, he doesn't know the exact coordinates because they kept him blindfolded the entire time. Kix takes a long moment to think this through. Once he figures out where the Gorda Highlands are located on the map, he decides it's time to investigate further. He also recalls Leia mentioned the Special Forces training camp is located right there in the Gorda Highlands. With his next move decided, he tells the warden it is time to leave. Jedros is shocked to see Kix walking away without a word. He screams out Kix's name, but the young man just keeps walking, ignoring him completely. Once they're outside, Kelix looks at the warden with absolute disgust. He knows the man must have taken a massive bribe from the stolen gold. Since he can't let him go unpunished, he decides to push Gidros just a little bit further. He figures it's the perfect time to give the old man one final, terrifying nudge. Call suddenly calls out Shua's name, bringing up the 3,000 gold that Gidros embezzled. He asks Shua if he knew about this. The warden nervously stammers out a yes. Internally, Shua is praying that Kix hasn't realized he's been taking dirty money from Gidros this whole time. Kix then shatters his peace of mind, mentioning he overheard something interesting while Shua was away fetching the expert. Call talks about how he is a generous man, but warns there are limits to his mercy. Before Klex can say anything else, Shua hits the dirt and starts begging for Call's forgiveness. In his mind, he is absolutely fuming, convinced that Gidros snitched and sold him out to the enemy. Shua keeps begging, swearing that he will never do anything like this ever again. But by the time he finally looks up, Call has already vanished into thin air. Shua is shocked, but he decides to take all his anger out on Gidros the snitch. Little does he know, Kix is hiding behind a nearby well. And he is wearing an evil smirk because his plan to turn them against each other worked. Suddenly, a man with a heavy presence appears right beside Kix, shocking him. Kix stares hard at the man, noticing the uniform of a knight from the Blue Lion Order. Kix asks the stranger what he wants, and the knight reveals that he is Kraut Selim. Kraut mentions that Lord Russell ordered him to personally accompany Kix on his journey. Kix takes a quiet moment to look into the man's military stats. He realizes Kraut is 26 years old with a rank military stats, leaving Kix feeling amazed by his abilities, leaving him to wonder if a powerful character like this ever appeared in the game Hero's Destiny. However, he just cannot seem to remember the name, leaving Kix to wonder if Kraut died early on in the game. Because of how high his stats are, Klex figures he can be among the top 100 strongest later. Suddenly, it dawns on him that this man might be that terrifying legend known as the Messenger of Death. He was known as a demon who wipes out his enemies without a second thought. Rumor has it even the Black Prince, his lord, has never even seen his true face. However, Kix trashes the thought because he refuses to believe Kraut is the Messenger of Death, since that killer is described as thin and gloomy. Basically, Kraut is muscular and way too cheerful, which shows no sign that he is the Messenger of Death, since he lacks info on it. He decides to just ignore whatever it is that he is thinking. Kix can see that based on Kraut's potential alone. He is a solid A rank, definitely a guy who is profitable to keep around. Kix is completely lost in thought until Kraut calls his name several times to jolt him back. Kix asks Kraut why he was calling him, and he reveals that Gerard has come to visit. The moment Klex hears that name, he realizes Gerard is the man his family owes their entire debt to. Since Gerard came all by himself, Kix believes that things are finally getting more interesting. Klex whisks off immediately, telling Kraut it is time to leave. It takes a moment before the knight catches on. And Kix just concludes that an airhead like this cannot be the Messenger of Death. Kraut manages to catch up quickly, so he can lead while Kix walks behind him. Kraut then leads Kix right to the room where Gerard is waiting for their meeting. Gerard welcomes Kix warmly, introducing himself as the leader of a modest little trading company. Klex replies that he has heard of his business, and even if it is not a giant company, it is certainly respected. With a bright fake smile, Kix tells Gerard that talented merchants are always welcome. Gerard humbly bows to Kix, talking about how the young man has flattered him with his words. Call then asks Gerard why he has come to seek an audience, since he holds no official authority. Call suggests to Gerard that it would have been much better to speak to Russell, since this is a business matter. Gerard lets out a loud laugh when he hears this. He admits he knows the territory truly belongs to Kix himself. He adds that while Russell manages the land for now, not a single soul would dare defy the young master's ultimate authority. Call plays it humble. He insists he is merely one of two heirs, and warns Gerard not to overestimate him. Gerard grins, telling Kix that although it is not official yet, he has already heard the big news. He knows the struggle for the succession has already ended. Kix is genuinely impressed, since that secret hasn't even been made public yet. Gerard quickly apologizes, just in case he happened to offend the young lord. But he explains that having ears everywhere is exactly why he remains such a successful and capable merchant in this business. Inside, though, Gerard is starting to worry, because Kix isn't acting like the naive and foolish boy he was supposed to be. He wonders if Kix has been hiding his true self all along, as he looks incredibly sharp and cynical now. He really doesn't want to believe that Kix has been deceiving everyone from the very beginning. However, he is quite pleased to find out the rumors about Kix's beauty were definitely true. Gerard turns out to be a total creep, already fantasizing over the young master's stunning looks. Call senses the filth and stands. He tells Gerard that he is not there to waste his time, and if he doesn't have a point. If there is nothing tangible to talk about, then he is simply going to take his leave. Gerard bows his head instantly and apologizes, knowing his entire plan will go down the drain if Kix walks out now. He then claims he was simply blown away by how incredibly beautiful the boy is. Call can't believe he just got a compliment from a man who looks like a full-grown buffalo. Call decides to sit back down just to hear what this dude actually has to say for himself. Gerard finally mentions he is there to discuss a massive debt left behind by the boy's late father. Call casually starts picking his nose while telling Gerard this is the first time he has heard such news. Call points out that the financial officer is currently detained on suspicion of some very serious criminal activities. Call flicks the dirt away without a care, and Kraut is horrified that Kix is playing around with such filth. Gerard knew something like this would happen, but he came fully prepared for it. He tells Kix that since it's been 5 years, that is exactly why he was unaware. Secretly, Gerard can't wait to see the despair on Kix's beautiful face when he drops this massive bombshell. Gerard then reveals that according to the signed contract, there is a certain catch. It says that 3 years after the loan, the full debt can be demanded. Repayment of everything can be demanded at any time. As he says this, Gerard is secretly brimming with joy. He is teeming with excitement inside, but he is doing his absolute best to hold it in. He reveals that in exactly 2 weeks, they are required to pay 60,000 gold coins. Kraut hears this and immediately suffers from a total brain freeze. On the other hand, Kix couldn't care less about it. He is even surprised that Kraut is acting so crazy over a little gold. Gerard sees Kix's calm face and assumes he is just trying his best to look tough. Kraut, however, is desperately trying to calculate just how much 60,000 gold coins truly amounts to. Call finally speaks up, asking if he can extend the deadline a little bit. This hits Gerard suddenly. He takes a moment to reply, informing Kix that extending the deadline is simply not an option. He mentions that since the death of Korn, the credit of this territory has significantly dropped. He claims he actually wanted to demand payment a full year ago. He says he waited out of good faith, but now it is finally time for the next ruler to return that courtesy. Deep down, Call is left in a major bind, struggling to find a solution now that Gerard has refused to extend the deadline with only 2 weeks left for repayment. Call finally speaks up. He tells Gerard that finding another lender to cover the debt will be easy. Gerard claps his hands for Kix, saying he is quite pleased with that assurance. Deep down, Gerard is laughing at Kix for being so incredibly naive about the world. He knows for a fact that 60,000 gold isn't something obtained easily without the right connections. Gerard then tells Kix he will return soon with a loan agreement for the territory's seal. In his mind, he is positive that no one would lend a clueless guy like Kix 60,000 gold. Gerard is already certain that this entire territory is his. The talk ends, so Gerard bows politely and tells Kix it is time for him to leave. On the inside, he's dying to see Kix's face when he's begging for mercy. He even plans to sell Kix to the slave market because of his pretty face, but only after he has had his fun with him. As he heads for the door, Gerard sarcastically wishes Kix luck on getting that money. After he is gone, Call looks for Kraut to understand just how massive 60,000 gold is, then tells him to stop being a distraction. Kraut screams at Kix, asking him how he can be so calm when their land is being taken away forever. Kix, on the other hand, doesn't actually care because he is too busy thinking about what Gidro said earlier. Based on the map data, he is sure those ruins hold the secret vault. But he knows he has to investigate further. Apparently, out here on this continent, the lands outside the castles are definitely not a place for a casual stroll. On top of that, the Gorda Highlands are a death trap filled with nasty monsters that he would much rather avoid. Stepping out of the room, Kix walks through the castle while ignoring Kraut's questions, his mind already set on a new plan. He needs someone who knows the Gorda Highlands, and that person is Leia. Moments later, they arrive at the place where Leia is held. Kix tells the guard that he and Kraut are entering, so there is no need to worry. As they prepare to enter, Kraut mentions that this room once belonged to Gidro's. Inside, Kix is actually surprised by how organized everything looks. Leia walks out, noting that Gidros had a taste for expensive things. Call gives her a big smile, saying she looks great for a prisoner. Leia smirks back, confidently telling Kix just how good she really is. Kraut almost draws his sword to discipline Leia for being so informal, but the tension eventually fades. Leia speaks up. Leia calls him out for lying about the poison and being the only one with the cure. Kix actually commends her for it. He is honestly impressed that she managed to figure everything out way faster than he expected. Leia stands her ground, telling him she is certain that Kix actually needs her help. That is the real reason he came. Meanwhile, Leela makes it clear she is done following any more orders. But then, she suddenly makes a bold move on Call. She whispers that if they have a good time together, she might just reconsider her position. She even adds that Call would have to work hard to satisfy her. Kraut is absolutely fuming, but Call stops him before he can draw his sword on the lady. Call turns back to Leia and tells her he is only there to give her a chance to survive. Leia demands to know what he means, but Kix reveals that even if he let her go now, she would be hunted down and killed the moment she stepped outside the castle walls. Leia is completely confused by this, so Call decides to explain the situation further. He reminds her that the Shikin family is now at war with the Kasharin family. And that is because he turned Stella into a villain while sealing off the monohole for good. But get this, it was only possible because of Leia's testimony. The moment she hears this, she completely freezes. Terrified, Leia tells Kix that he is supposed to be the one rescuing her. She wants to take back her words because she knows that family is coming for her life. Kix tells Leia that even if she tries to hide the truth now, it is too late. The monohole is gone, and the Kasharin plot to steal Shikin territory has been totally crushed. Call warns her that nobles don't usually let people who ruin their grand plans live. And unfortunately, Leia has fallen right into that exact category. Leia is left speechless. She had heard stories of people dying in service to the nobility, but she never actually believed something that horrible would happen to her too. She grinds her teeth in pure frustration, asking the universe why this is happening. Suddenly, Leia grabs a lampstand and lunges at Kix, screaming at him to just die. Before she can even get close to Call, Kraut steps in and kicks her right in the stomach, sending her crashing to the floor. He points his sword at her, calling her a filthy assassin for trying to harm Lord Kix. Kix calms Kraut down, telling him that while he appreciates the protection, he needs to chill. He urges him not to look down on her, since she is the reason he is the next lord. Kraut quickly apologizes for his overzealous behavior. But Kix just smiles and assures him that there is nothing to be sorry about. Kix walks up to Leia, noting how people hate the person who tells the truth more than the one who causes despair. Call asks why she thinks that is, then answers his own question, because it is just the easier way. Kix crouches down right beside Leia, the very girl who just tried to kill him, This shock goes straight to Kraut's bones. Even Leia is stunned that Kix is sitting right there without a hint of fear. Kix simply tells Leia that it is always better to let those heavy emotions out. He says he has already seen her fire and knows she is not the type to give up easily. Leia confirms it, snapping that she won't die because she literally can't afford to. Kix is pleased. He tells Leia that her fierce determination to stay alive will make her very useful later on. Leia is lost, but Kix explains that if she works for him, he will protect her from the assassins. Meanwhile, things are heating up. All right, let us see how Kix handles this. He tells Leia he will take care of her family. But Leia does not see this as a kindness. She snaps back immediately, accusing Call of threatening her kin, even though they have absolutely zero part in her messy criminal business. Call just laughs as he gets up. It is a loud, mocking sound. He tells her not to get ahead of herself. He would not care if she died tomorrow. Truth is, assassins like her are a dime a dozen in this world. That hits home. Leia knows he is right. A man with his power can easily buy 1,000 elite killers whenever he likes. But still, she pushes back, asking why he is bothering with her when there are so many other killers available out there. She is absolutely certain that Call went through all this effort to recruit her specifically for a very good reason. Kix admits he is just saving time, but it is also because of the specific intel she shared with him earlier today. Leia goes quiet. She thinks it over and realizes the guy actually has a solid point. After all, she has been used to hunt down traitors in the organization plenty of times before. Right now, she knows there is only one path forward. She hates the guy, but she is a survivor above everything else. She looks at Kix and finally agrees. She is in. Leia points out the Kashirin and Shikin families have already crossed the point of no return. One of those houses is going to end up in the dirt. It is inevitable. Since she stands to gain more if the Kashirins fall, she is picking his side. Just like that, she is officially teamed up with Kix. Call grins. Now she is finally starting to use that brain of hers. But Leia has one condition. She wants to be treated like a professional mercenary. She will not take orders for anything that is not part of their actual mission. Kraut cannot believe the nerve of this woman. He is about to blow a fuse. He screams at her for acting like she is on equal footing with Kix. Leia just waves him off mockingly. She tells Kraut she will be polite to her employer, seeing as Call is the one paying. Then she twists the knife, teasing Kraut about his supposed morals. She warns him not to bully his new ally, since he claims to be such a gentleman. The sparks are flying between them, like they are in some twisted romantic comedy. Kix breaks the tension, reminding Leia about that campsite she mentioned the other day. Call brings up the camp again, focusing on the details. It is in the Golda Highlands, territory she knows well. That is why he needs her. Leia is still a bit confused, though. Suddenly, Kix barks at Kraut to find a detailed map covering the entire kingdom and all of the Kashirin lands. He needs it to show them the plan, since only he can see the system map. Kraut mentions a massive map over in the military council room that should work. Kix does not waste a second. He orders them to the military room. Kraut heads off, but then he stops. He realizes Kix is not moving, which is definitely strange. Kix tells him to lead the way while he follows. Kraut is baffled. He asks if Kix is lost. Call claims he knows the way, he just prefers having Kraut lead the whole group. But the truth is, our hero is actually completely and utterly lost. Kraut is stubborn, insisting Kix takes the lead because a lord never walks behind his knights. But Call is not having it. He literally screams at him to just go. Leia just stands there, watching these two idiots make a scene. They finally hit the military council room, and man, the scale of the place totally floors Kix. Kraut drops a bombshell. This room holds the highest military secrets in all of Ellen. Klex scans the map and manages to pinpoint the exact location of the Golden Highlands. He turns to Kraut, asking what he knows. Kraut notes the area is actually pretty famous for one specific reason. It is the center of a nasty territorial feud between the Kashirin and Araban families. High-quality copper mines are hidden there. But according to Kraut, All development is stalled because of the fighting. Kix checks if Ereben is on their side. Kraut gives him a solid nod. Kix gets serious. Is this map actually accurate? When was the last time it was surveyed? Kraut has to admit he has got zero intel on that. Leia chimes in. It is a bit old, sure, but there should not be any huge mistakes. She is confident she can tweak it with more recent updates. Call is shocked. He asks if she can really navigate using just this map. Leia just shrugs, easy. She has zero issues here. She has been playing around this area since she was a kid, so it is basically her backyard. Then she gets curious, why the interest in the highlands? Kix reveals the truth. He is planning to find some ancient ruins hidden there. Leia is stunned. There are not supposed to be any ruins in that entire region. Kix does not back down though. He reminds her how the adults always told them that place was strictly off-limits when they were younger. This gets Leia thinking. She never imagined the off-limits stories from her childhood were actually real. Then Klex speaks up. He asks Leia when exactly the Kossarin family began training their secret units. Leia is confused. Why would he need to know that? She is a 6th-term graduate and has 5 years on-site experience, so she estimates it has been roughly 15 years. Kix has another question. When did that dispute between those two families first break out? Kraut answers immediately. Same time, exactly 15 years ago. Leia gets curious, asking Kraut if he has actually figured something out, but he admits his head is as blank as ever. Leia. She shoots him a look, and just like that, their usual bickering starts up. Call shuts them down. Training an army costs a fortune, pure and simple. You do not just scale. You do not suddenly expand your troops without a massive reason and a lot of cash. Leia is confused, but Kraut cuts in, explaining that this obviously means the Kossarin family must have landed a massive windfall. Kraut takes the chance. He calls Leia an idiot again. She snaps back that she was not even talking to him. Klex agrees with Kraut. He has hit the nail on the head. He is convinced the Kossarin family found a massive new money source right around that time. Kix is positive that they have been using this cash to secretly train their private army. And once they are finally ready, they likely deploy their units for secret operations, and Leia is the perfect example. Leia gets curious, asking Klex where the money is coming from and how the ruins are involved. Then, Call reveals that copper mines always emerge. Right alongside silver mines, it is common for copper to hide silver ore. Kraut is stunned. He asks Klex if he's actually trying to say that the Kossarin family is secretly mining silver. That's a massive crime. Klex confirms it. Imagine just finding a hidden silver vein on your own land. But gold and silver mines are always considered royal property. Even so, Kix doesn't think any noble would actually report it. Kraut asks about the ruins, and Kix replies that he knows exactly what they are. Kraut excitedly asks about the place, and he mentions it's the perfect spot to hide something away from prying eyes. Leia is totally confused. She asks Klex how all this talk relates to them specifically. Leia asks if Klex is starting a war to seize those funds, especially since the Shikin family clearly lacks the resources to fight a battle of that scale. Kraut knows the situation is grim, so he agrees. Even if it's illegal. If they take it by force and get reported, they're completely finished. Why not just report it? But Kix points out they won't gain a thing from that. Their territory is near bankruptcy, and they desperately need this money. So what's the plan? Kix notes the mine's profits will definitely be stored right there. Since it's illegal money, nobody can complain if it's stolen. Leia and Kraut finally see where Call is going. They're all in. Later that night, Klex prepares to slip out of the castle. Russell is shocked that Klex is letting an amateur like Kraut escort him to those dangerous highlands. Russell tells Kix that there is a proper way to do things. Rushing into danger will only lead to more trouble. He begs Kix to reconsider, but Kix admits having Russell would be easier. Still, Klex knows young talents like Kraut need to grow for the family's future. Kraut blushes hard, realizing Kix actually has faith in him. Plus, it's risky for both leaders to leave during these times. The risk is huge, Russell agrees. Russell apologizes for his narrow view and wishes him safety. With a terrifyingly stern face, Russell turns to Kraut. He warns him not to let any harm come to Kix. Kraut just gives a playful face, assuring him everything's under control. Russell has to smack the kid to make him focus. Russell then addresses the group. He reminds them Calix's wounds are still fresh. But he doesn't care about the pain, as he's pushing through this journey purely for the territory's sake. All because of the massive sacrifice Kix is making for their land. Russell orders the knights to remain faithful, and they all salute to acknowledge his command. But Kix knows the truth. No knight actually wants a lord who is weak. Especially one who constantly tries to sacrifice himself instead of leading with strength. Call isn't bothered by their doubt. He knows that earning their true loyalty is his actual mission here. Once they're ready, Kraut lowers a rope bridge into a well deep inside the castle. Kraut goes down first, a lit lamp clamped firmly between his teeth. Kix follows as Kraut watches him closely, constantly urging the young man to be careful. Finally, their feet hit solid ground. Kraut explains that this secret waterway is their only ticket out of the castle walls. It is a long trek, but Kix does not care about the distance one bit. Lamps lit. The two push forward through the dark and muddy tunnel together. Reaching the exit, Kraut reaches out and hauls Kix back up to the surface. Kix looks around and realizes they have ended up in a strange, ruined building. It's an abandoned watermill. Kraut explains, a place forgotten and left to rot. Kraut pushes the door open for Kix to pass through. Kix is stunned to see the rest of their party already waiting for them. Kraut was prepared. He just smiles and tells the kid to get on the horse. Kix snaps at him to stop the lord title while they are in hostile territory. He tells Kraut to use young master instead, and the veteran reluctantly agrees to it. Kix. He notices that every member of the group is dressed like a regular commoner. They look like normal dudes on an adventure, the perfect cover for this mission. Then Kix turns to Kraut, asking if everything is truly ready to go. Kraut says yes, but he's miserable about wearing these smelly and gross peasant clothes. Call jokes that if he hates it, he can play the porter instead. While Call plays the role of a happy newlywed alongside the lovely Leia. Kraut chooses the rags immediately. There's no way he's letting Call sit next to Leia. Leia is joining the mission too, though she stays hidden under a hood for now. She keeps it pulled low over her face to hide her identity from everyone. But Kraut blabbing her name, and Job gets the rest of the party curious. Kix can't believe just how big of an idiot Kraut can actually be. Still, Kraut isn't sorry. In his mind, he wasn't lying about her being a lowly assassin. He hesitantly walks up to Leia so they can start their act as newlyweds. Leia isn't having it. She tells him to move because he's in her way. Kix watches the bickering, unable to believe the two are still at it. If they could just get along, they would be an absolute powerhouse together. But if they don't, they'll just split into factions and tear each other apart. In the end, someone might die or even abandon their lord's side forever. Call starts to wonder if a hero's destiny is more than just code. Maybe it is a divine mirror reflecting the struggles of the real world. He begins thinking of ways he can help Leia through this difficult journey. But Kraut cuts in, announcing that everything is finally ready to move out. Kix is relieved to hear it. They need to get far from the castle before the sun comes up. And just like that, the party sets off under the cover of night. They catch a few hours of sleep before hitting the road once more. Passing through quiet villages and lively markets, Kix finds himself actually enjoying the long and winding journey ahead. By the next night, Kraut informs Kix that they have officially passed the very last rural village. Klex wasted no time, telling Kraut to inform the group. Time to ditch the disguises and gear up for real combat by morning. The sun rises and Klex addresses the party. He makes it clear that the real work starts right now. Once the combat uniforms are on, Kix gives the final command for everyone to move out. From here on out, it is strict military formation as they enter the forest. Suddenly, the scouts return with a warning. They tell Kraut that a group of forest Sasquatches is lying in wait just ahead. Sasquatches are massive, hairy, human-like beasts that descended from a legendary race of 8-man beings. Kraut's face pales with worry as he asks the scout how big the nest is. The scout confirms there are about 5 of the monsters. Call taps Kraut on the shoulder, demanding to be lifted into the trees so he can see the threat himself. Kraut obeys, grabbing Kix and leaping up onto a high, sturdy tree branch. From their high vantage point, they spot the monster camp glowing in the far distance. These monsters are incredibly well organized. Kix realizes they cannot underestimate these beasts and asks Kraut what the plan is. Kraut explains the plan. They will use flaming arrows to block the monsters from making a retreat. The moment Kix hears this, he shouts at Kraut, asking if he has lost his mind. Kix tries to push his own strategy, but Kraut reminds him that their men's lives are on the line. While the two are arguing, Leia listens from below. Inside, Call is certain that no one on this entire continent understands the nature of monsters better than he does. But he has 0 ways to talk Kraut into following his lead. Kix decides to ignore the fire plan entirely while drafting a much riskier one, even though he is not sure if the squad will ever go along with it. Kraut just ignores him and heads off to brief the knights on his plan, leaving a grumbling Klex behind in the shadows. Leia sees the whole drama unfold, but she keeps her mouth shut. When Klex finally reads the plan, he nearly faints because it basically tells everyone to just rely on their own individual strength to survive. That is not a strategy. Still, Call cannot change their minds unless he proves he actually knows what he is doing through his own raw skill. Leia notices Klex looking heavy-hearted, just as Kraut orders the entire team to prepare for the main assault. Right then, Leia steps forward and tells Kix she has something important to say. Call asks what is on her mind, and Leia bluntly states that this plan will fail. She warns that with this strategy, the entire unit is going to be wiped out. She knows Kix will try to save them, even if it costs him everything. Kix listens and agrees with her assessment. Leia is shocked by his silence, but Call explains he is not being quiet. He is actually trying to find a way to stop the disaster while keeping his squad under control. Leia then mentions she has an idea of her own. Kix tells her to speak up, so Leia reveals that Sasquatches are fiercely protective of their young. Look, once the battle begins, they'll prioritize protecting their young above absolutely everything else. He notes that regardless of how the battle actually turns out, the females will flee with the kids, while the males stay to buy time. But once those kids are hidden, get ready, they're going to hit us with everything they've got. Call knows everything she's saying is right. But he's pretty sure this isn't going to be an easy win. Call asks Leia for her plan, and she's stunned he's even willing to listen to her. Leia has one thing to confirm before she lays it all out on the table. She needs to know if their goal is to pass through or wipe out the Sasquatches. Call confirms it, all they need to do is get through. Since that's the goal, Leia tells Kix she's actually got a strategy. She explains they have to make the monsters believe their hiding place isn't safe anymore. Right now, 5 monsters are completely blocking their only way forward. And the second Kraut makes his reckless charge at them. She wants another unit to cause a massive distraction near the females and their young. Even if it's just a temporary distraction. She's sure the Sasquatches will have to retreat to protect their families. Once that opening is finally made, she's confident the main group can slip through without any trouble. Kellix is actually impressed. He'd thought of this exact same strategy before. With the plan set, Kix asks the obvious question, who's doing it? Who's going to find the nest and launch the diversionary attack? Kix warns Leia that those monsters will be beyond furious and hunt them down, driven by pure rage to save their little ones. Call calls it a suicide mission, but Leia immediately shuts him down by volunteering herself. Kix is totally floored, but Leia lets him know she'd already planned to handle the dangerous part from the very beginning. Call's surprised too, asking Leia if she's carrying a siren's potion for backup. Leia is stunned. She has to ask Klex how he could possibly know about that. Call says it's simple. Leia wouldn't take a risk like this without a solid insurance policy. She needs that herb to fool the Sasquatch's noses, which are sharper than any dog. Leia is completely blown away by everything he said. She admits she's been watching Call, and her opinion has totally flipped. Honestly, she's starting to think he's a completely different person now. Before she can say more, Call starts coughing to steer the conversation away. Once he's successfully changed the subject, he tells her that if this actually works, then it'll be a solid plan after all. Leia then assures Call he has absolutely nothing to worry about, as this place has been her personal playground since she was 8. Call then asks why she's going through all this trouble to help him. She reveals that if the Shane family falls, she's in deep trouble too. Call smiles because she's totally right, once they have both agreed on this. Call tells Leia he's got one more thing to ask before she goes. Illa asks what it is, and he simply points off into the distance. He warns her, when dealing with Sasquatches, you should always assume there are at least 2 more than you can actually see. Kix mentions the old proverb, those who vanish return to strike from behind, which is exactly how these monsters operate. He points out a few areas and asks her opinion. Leia picks one immediately, a goblin settlement, the perfect target for a Sasquatch raid. Call is definitely impressed here. He thanks Leia for the intel, hoping this helps them avoid any massive trouble later on. But secretly, Call knows stopping those monsters from the West Plus, the hidden ones, is basically impossible. They lack the numbers, and his men are incredibly stubborn. With the plan settled, Kix tells Leia he has a specific request. Meanwhile, Kraut watches from the distance, wondering what they're whispering about. After Kix finally finishes explaining his secret plan to Leia, she blushes hard, admitting it's a bold plan. Suddenly, she tells him to stop moving and gently touches his face. She looks absolutely stunning now. Call turns redder than a tomato, half his brain cells frying while the rest of his body panics. Before he can get any wild ideas, Leia tells him she was just cleaning something off his cheek. Even with the explanation, Call struggles to hide his red face, leaving Leia wondering what's wrong with him. Then Kraut ruins everything. He spots Kix's flushed face, but the leader tries to play it cool. Kix orders Kraut to prep Leia's gear for a high-stakes solo mission. He warns Kraut, don't panic if she suddenly vanishes along the way. Kraut's curious, demanding to know the mission details because he still doesn't trust her yet. Kix tells him to trust his judgment instead, since they're in this together. Kraut backs off finally. He'll drop it just this once. But Leia steps in, saying there's no need since she'll handle the equipment herself. Moments later, Leia emerges in her combat suit. And every man watching basically loses their mind because of just how stunning and lethal she looks. Even Kraut's face turns bright red. After changing, she pulls out a bowl of the siren's potion. She starts applying it. The group wonders if she's trying to mask her human scent to fool the Sasquatches. Even Kraut almost passes out from the intense smell. He admits she's brave for using that stuff. Potion applied, she checks her blade to ensure it's ready. Everyone is staring at her, but she's purely focused on the task. Leia asks Kix if it's go time, and he gives the word. He offers her a few soldiers for backup if needed. But she refuses, knowing those men wouldn't follow her orders anyway. Call decides to trust her gut and lets her handle things her own way. Leia then leaps high into the branches and vanishes. Call signals to the rest of the group that it is time for them to move. Moments later, a heavy wind starts blowing right toward the monster village, much to Call's utter horror. He panics immediately because Leia had just run off in the total opposite direction. And then it happens. The Sasquatches pick up their scent instantly due to the wind. Before the team can even react, the monsters are upon them, and Kraut strikes first. He lunges at the beast, intending to end this in a single, clean swipe. But he realizes way too late that he barely left a scratch. Call is baffled that Kraut tried to finish the Sasquatch with a slash when he should have stabbed its weak point. Since that first hit failed, the Sasquatch retaliates, launching itself at Kraut with a massive, heavy-duty punch. Kraut manages to block it, but the impact sends him sliding back with a thunderous shock wave. Kix just stands there, absolutely floored by the raw intensity of a real-life battle. This is nothing like the simple, pixelated fights he used to see on his computer screen. Then, the Sasquatch lets out a bone-chilling roar that summons every monster in the area. Right then, the entire team realizes they are in serious trouble. Even Call starts wishing they had just stuck with the fire attack Kraut suggested. But Kraut doesn't hesitate. He yells for his knights to charge straight in. Kix is baffled. Is Kraut really just rushing in there without a solid plan? He tries to go after him, but his guards, Albu and Thomas, quickly block his path. They tell him to stay close and not wander off. Kix agrees, up at the front. Kraut lunges at the monsters with a powerful mana strike, shouting for Kix to stay exactly where he is. He unleashes a massive blow that shatters everything in its path, leaving Kix genuinely terrified for Kraut's safety. Once the dust settles, Kraut sees the Sasquatch lying, defeated at his feet. He turns back to Kix with a confident grin, acting like the fight is already over. Klex can't believe it. How can Kraut pose like a hero while the rest of his team is still struggling? When Kraut finally looks back, he sees his squad getting completely overwhelmed by the rest of the pack. One knight gets slammed hard into the dirt. Just as the Sasquatch prepares to crush him, Kraut appears out of thin air, planting a heavy kick right in the monster's face and creating a perfect opening for the knight to grab his sword. There is no time to take these things down one at a time anymore. Kraut gets dead serious with the monster in front of him and slices its arm clean off. The beast howls in pure agony. But Kraut is only focused on the massive horde still surrounding them. Amidst the chaos, Kraut realizes they are in deep. Even the older Sasquatches are way stronger than expected. Still, he keeps his rampage alive, carving through the monsters with his blade. He slides under a beast and hacks off its leg, leaving it screaming on the ground in pain. Suddenly, Kraut notices something chilling. The scouts only reported 8 monsters, but there are many more. However, one is missing, leaving Kraut on edge. Then, out of nowhere, a massive, terrifying Sasquatch appears. It gets worse. Kraut sees the beast is locking its sights right on Kix. Kraut loses it, screaming for everyone on the field to pull back and get to Call immediately. Standing as the first line, Albu orders Kraut to back off while he steps up to face the attacking monster. Kraut doesn't hesitate, firing a massive monoblast from the rear at the giant Sasquatch. The impact is insane, bathing the entire area in a blinding white light. As the light fades, everyone is holding their breath, wondering if they actually managed to take it down. But the dust settles, and those massive, hairy hands emerge from the cloud. The monster is still standing. Before Albu can move, the Sasquatch snatches him up and tosses him like a rag doll, much to Call's horror. Kix watches in shock as his man crashes violently into the dirt. Thomas just saw his comrade get wrecked, but he stays put, determined to keep Kix safe at all costs. Right then, Kraut jumps back into the fray to challenge the Sasquatch. Furious, he lets loose another monoblast. Meanwhile, Kix is down on his knees, his mind racing to process the total chaos. He barks at Thomas to leave his side and go help take down that persistent monster. Call knows the truth. If they don't change tactics now, none of them are making it out. But Thomas won't budge, refusing to leave Kix alone. He is convinced that if they just survive a bit longer, everything will turn out great. Call snaps at Thomas, shouting that no one is coming to save them. He even grabs Thomas's arm, trying to force some sense into him. If the soldiers go down, Thomas will be left fighting 2 of those things all by himself. Call finally realizes he is only putting himself in more danger by letting Thomas stay back. Thomas is still fighting Kix on this, because Kraut gave him one clear order: never leave Kix's side, no matter what. Seeing that being nice isn't working, Call decides to take a different approach. He screams at him, asking if he is really going to defy a direct order from his lord. That hits home. Thomas remembers his oath. After all, a knight's duty is to always follow his lord's command. He finally gives in, ready to put his life on the line for his master on the battlefield. While Thomas charges the monster, Kix sprints off to find where Albu landed. When he finally reaches Albu's side, Klex is paralyzed with fear. Albu is missing an arm and covered in deep, bloody wounds. He rushes to his side, desperately yelling at the dying man to stay alive. Klex knows he has to stop the bleeding first, so he starts tearing off Albu's clothes. Once he is clear, he forces a low-level healing potion down the soldier's throat. Call watches him closely. He is stabilized for now, but the danger is far from over. His stomach is starting to swell. That means severe internal bleeding is setting in. It hits Kix. That cheap potion won't save him. He needs to find a real healer and fast. If he can't find one, he will at least need a mid-grade potion to stand a chance. Call grabs his sword, telling Albu to hang in there. He promises he will be back with help soon. As he runs, Albu barely opens his eyes, watching Kix struggle to save him. Moments later, Kix arrives at the old goblin settlement. It looks like Leia was right after all. He hides behind a tree. This is Sasquatch territory. Stick with me, things are about to get wild. One of the beasts is enjoying his goblin snack so much that it is messy. The foul liquid splashes right on Call's face. The stench is absolutely stomach-turning, nearly making him gag right there in his hiding spot. Call is desperate to act, but the shadow of death is looming over him. Still, he keeps his focus. He has to push himself. Let's watch as he motivates himself, knowing the plan is solid and the traps are set for the kill. This isn't a game on a screen anymore. This is real life, and the stakes are as high as they get. His main priority, saving his friend. That urge to save Albu finally crushes his fear. He steps out from the shadows, making himself the target. He lets out a roar at the red Sasquatch, declaring that its time has finally run out. Before the monster can even react, Call yanks on the trigger rope right next to him. A volley of wooden spears flies out, impaling the beast from behind and ending its life in an instant. The second Sasquatch sees its partner fall and loses its mind with rage. It charges straight at him. Call freezes for a split second, paralyzed by total terror. But he snaps out of it just in time, rolling away before the creature can smash him into a pulp. He sprints toward the next trap, grabbing the rope and pulling with everything he has left in him. Suddenly, a massive net drops from above, pinning the raging beast firmly to the forest floor. With the monster finally pinned and restrained, Call gets a closer look and notices the net is woven from incredibly tough arachne vines. He realizes that coating his weapon with the siren's potion will leave this monster completely unable to move. Leia used it for scent, but it is actually a powerful numbing agent. He follows through with the plan, and to his relief, the beast starts to go limp. Call draws his blade and drives it straight into the creature's thick skull. The sickening sensation of steel hitting bone is something he will never be able to forget. Blood sprays everywhere as he pulls his sword back out. It is a gruesome sight, and he cannot help but feel disgusted. Call stands over the fallen red beast to confirm the kill, though he hates that it had to end this way. He does not enjoy the violence, but he knows there is no other way to survive. He finishes the job with one last strike to the head. While he is still gasping for air, an armed goblin suddenly creeps up right behind his back. Without a single warning, the monster lunges forward, aiming to take his head while his guard is completely down. Just before the blow connects, Albu appears out of nowhere, throwing himself in the way to protect his friend. The blade bites deep. By the time Call realizes what has happened, his friend is bleeding from a nasty gash. Pure rage boils over now. He lunges at the goblin, swinging his blade like a total madman. The goblin is quick, dodging the strike and nearly disemboweling Call with a sharp counter of its own. He narrowly avoids disaster, admitting that he nearly lost his nerve right then and there. He only survived because the goblin's arms were just too short. It is frustrating that his current body is still so weak. Even swinging a sword feels like a chore, but he realizes he still has one major advantage over this small monster. Between the goblin's tiny arms and its blade, its range is barely 60 centimeters at best. However, if we combine Call's arm length and his long sword, he has double the reach of that monster. As long as he keeps his distance, he knows he actually has a real fighting chance here. The goblin lunges again, but Call is ready, swinging his blade with everything he has got. The blade slices right through the goblin's ear. But it looks bad for Call as that jagged sword aims straight for his shoulder. Just like before, pure luck saves him as he hits the dirt, making the goblin miss. For a second there, Kel honestly thought he was going to lose his entire shoulder. But there's no time for fear, because the monster is already lunging at him again. Call goes for a wide horizontal slash to end this, but the goblin somehow dodges. It strikes upward toward his head, but kicks its arm, sending the weapon flying. With the goblin's sword finally gone. It is wide open, and Kix seizes the chance to drive his blade in with everything. Call puts so much power into the thrust that he pins the goblin against the wall. With that, Call finally defeats the monster and collapses to his knees, completely breathless from the shock. It finally hits him that this isn't just a game. Every cut and every bit of pain felt all too real. To be honest, he really thought he was a dead man. Suddenly, his status window flickers to life. The system confirms he defeated 2 D-class monsters, and because they were so powerful, he is about to receive some extra rewards. But there is a catch. Using traps and poison means his total loot gets a massive cut. Another notification pops up confirming he's also taken down a lowly F-class monster. Since he pulled off such a spectacular win for his first fight, Kix jumps from level 8 all the way to level 11. His prize is the inventory unlock. But while he is distracted by all those glowing blue windows, Kraut suddenly appears, frantically checking if he is okay, but then he stops dead when he sees the monsters. The man immediately rushes over, checking Kix's body for any hidden wounds or broken bones. Kix promises he's all right and quickly asks how things went on the other side of the battlefield. Kraut explains that once they took out the 2 strongest Sasquatches in the pack, the others just ran away. Kraut thinks they just got really lucky. But Klex knows luck had nothing to do with it. Leia's plan actually worked like a charm. Suddenly, he realizes Albu is missing. He panics, demanding to know where his friend went. Kraut just points toward a silent figure on the ground, and Kix's face turns pale with horror. He wasn't naive enough to think that everyone would survive this, but seeing Albu dead still completely shatters his heart. As he sobs over the body, the other knights just stand there in silence, watching him break. Call can't stop himself from blaming his own choices. Kraut tries to comfort him, saying it wasn't his fault since Albu died a hero's death. Suddenly, Call snaps and screams at Kraut, yelling that it's ridiculous because there is absolutely no such thing as an honorable death. Through his tears, Kix tells them that in the end, every single death is exactly the same. Kraut gets it. He knows this pain is from losing a comrade for the very first time. Just then, Call looks up and sees the knights lining up even more lifeless bodies. Completely broken, he asks what the final casualty count was on their side. Kraut reveals they have 3 dead and 1 soldier badly injured. He adds that considering the odds, these were actually pretty light losses. Kix can't stop the guilt. If he'd only forced them to follow his plan, everyone would still be alive. He only survived this nightmare because of those traps Leia set beforehand. He only survived because Albu threw himself in the line of fire to save him. Call can't handle the agony and lets out a distraught scream, shocking every knight there. He turns to Kraut, voice trembling, asking what becomes of those who fell in this battle. Kraut explains the standard protocol. They retrieve the fallen and bring them back home. Kix gives the order, making sure Kraut knows this must be done right. With the order from Kix received, Kraut turns to pass the word along to the unit. But he stops cold. Every single one of them is busy crying. They can't believe it. Klex is actually weeping for them, for simple soldiers. In that quiet moment, they all silently vow to guard Kix with their very lives. You can see the change on their faces. Call hasn't just led them, he's won their hearts. Before long, Kraut reports that the fallen have been treated with preservation potions, and departure prep is finally finished. He tells him that everything is ready. Now, they're just waiting on his signal. Even Call can see it. The way these knights look at him, it's completely different. Guilt is eating him alive. But he knows he has to stay strong. If he breaks, the soldiers lose all hope. Call addresses the ranks, telling them they all fought like legends against those monsters. He makes it clear, from here on, they're marching to their goal as fast as possible. Call tells the healthy to carry the wounded. It's their duty never to abandon a comrade in arms. With one thunderous voice, the soldiers roar their compliance. Now, let's look back an hour. Leia was facing a Sasquatch ambush. She almost gets crushed, but manages to escape just in time. She's stunned that a beast-like that could actually track her movements. Leia springs into action, anchoring her weapon to a tree to swing herself up high. She continues navigating through the canopy. But just as she thinks she's safe, that Sasquatch appears right above her. Leia isn't worried, though. Turns out, this whole thing was a trap from the start. The beast charges into a wire Leia placed, which slices deep into its thick neck. Shockingly, it's not enough to kill it. The monster actually grabs the tree holding the wire. The beast lunges again, but Leia is way too fast for its massive claws. She flips behind it and wraps a wire tight around its throat, making it scream. And this time, she adds even more strings. They're too thin for the monster to even get a grip. Leia is confident that the hunt is over, until the monster starts uprooting the entire tree, holding down the trap. That's when she realizes she has to get the siren's potion directly into its bloodstream. It's about to break free. She can feel it. She has to move right now. She charges the Sasquatch and slides right under its arm before leaping into the air to drive the syringe deep into its back. The Sasquatch howls in pain, leaving Leia to wonder if it'll work. She has no choice but to trust her plan. Moments later, her nightmare comes true as the Sasquatch finally shatters the tree and the wires. But before it can attack, the potion finally hits. The beast goes down for the count. Leia lets out a long sigh of relief. You and I can see she never expected this to work. She admits it now. Call is definitely leagues ahead of her in the poison department. Still, it is a total shock. How did Call just flip his entire personality overnight? She has been observing Call for years now. But now, he's acting like a completely different person. But hey, this is exactly what she needs. Her long-awaited mission for revenge is finally within her reach. Back in the present hour, Kix notices that the soldiers are exhausted. He tells Kraut that it would be better if they took a short break. Kraut agrees with him, and moments later, Kix shows up with potions for the wounded. He distributes the potions to them, shocking them that lowly soldiers like them could actually get access to one. Kix urges them all to drink the potion so they can recover. Kraut then arrives, asking Kix what he is doing. Kix can already tell that this guy is about to cause him major trouble. Just as expected, Kraut starts to berate Kix, telling him that the potion might be low grade, but it is still expensive. Kraut mentions that Russell specially made it for Kix. Kraut adds that these 10 bottles are half of the Count's household reserve. Kix finally speaks back, asking Kraut if what he is trying to say is that he should just stand by and watch. Does Kraut really expect him to turn a blind eye while these injured men suffer in pain? Kraut is stunned by the question, and he tries to say this is not what he meant. Kix can see the distress on Kraut's face, and he urges him not to worry. He assures Kraut that once the expedition is over, he can drink all the low-grade potions he wants. Suddenly, some of the knights stand in front of Kellix to pay their respects. Kraut finally realizes the knights have found the true leader they have always wanted to serve, which is why they are now dedicating themselves to his noble cause. Kix notices how red-faced Kraut is, and he screams at him to get everything ready. Meanwhile, Klex is also red-faced, but he is trying to treat it as if it were not so serious. When it is finally time for them to leave, Call checks the status screen. We can see his approval rating jumped from 14 to 18%. This leaves a smile on his face as they continue their expedition. Soon afterward, Klex tells the group to stop in the middle of nowhere, telling them that they have reached their destination. Kraut is surprised and confused while asking Klex if they have gotten to the vault. Kraut mentions that he doesn't see any guard forces in the area, asking if the guards have abandoned the area after all these years. Call doesn't answer his concerns and just asks him if he's heard anything from Leia. But he says no. Upon hearing this, Call tells Kraut that they are going to be setting up camp exactly where they are. Kraut is further confused when he hears this, and Klex confirms this, saying the tent will be exactly where he is standing. Once they are done setting up camp, Kix brings out the map and points to where he believes the vault is located. Kraut is forced to ask Kix if they are not standing exactly where the vault is. And Call says no, revealing that the vault is still a little further from the camp. Kraut screams at Call, saying it is not a little far if the map he is looking at is indeed correct. It is going to take them at least 1 full week to get there. Kraut lays it out for Kix. Up until this point, these soldiers have pushed through this insane match on pure, raw willpower alone. Kraut warns him, pushing them to march for another week, that would be a total disaster. But as Kraut rants, Call stays dead silent, completely tuning out the noise. Thomas backs him up. They can't linger here, staying in one spot makes them easy prey for the enemy. Finally, Call opens his mouth. He tells everyone to just listen. He clarifies something. He pointed out the secret vault's location, sure. But he never actually said they were heading straight for it. Kraut is stunned. He screams at Kix in total disbelief, reminding him the whole point of this mission was to raid the enemy vault. Kelix simply nods, he's right. Then he calmly walks over to a corner. Kelix drops a bombshell. They're entering the vault through a hidden door sitting right beneath his feet. Kraut is convinced Kix has officially lost his mind. But Kelix just ignores the noise, kicking away the sand right where he's standing. Under the dust, a strange, square-shaped bump is revealed in the ground. Suddenly, a massive stone pillar rises up, demanding a secret passcode to proceed. Call punches in the code. To everyone's shock, a hidden passage swings open nearby. Kraut and the crew are losing it, but Kix, cool as ice. Kix moves to enter, but Kraut suddenly grabs him by the arm. It might be a trap, so the knights will take the lead. Kix tells Kraut he's free to do whatever, though he's fairly certain that absolutely nothing is going to happen. Kraut has to ask, where did Kix get this info? It's like he knows every secret this dungeon holds. Kix just smiles. He tells Kraut he got it from a very reliable source. Kix knows it's a tough sell. After all, up until this point, he's only ever shown them weakness and total incompetence. Kraut tries to explain he didn't mean it like that, but Thomas cuts in. He looks Kix in the eye and says he believes. He says if a leader truly values even the lowest-ranking soldier from the bottom of his heart, then he can say for sure that the leader has a just cause. The second Thomas declares his loyalty. The rest of the crew starts pouring out their real feelings for Kix too. They promise they're ready to die for him, as long as the cause is worth the sacrifice. Call is genuinely floored by their sudden show of support. It forces him to remind them he's still just that weak kid with 0 mana. He's honestly shocked they're willing to put their very lives in his hands. Thomas shakes his head. Strength isn't just about physical power, it's about the morality and character a man carries inside. With a warm smile, Thomas reminds Call that true strength always comes from within. Call looks over and sees Kraut actually crying. The big guy admits he's just so moved by everything. Kraut tells them that he's so proud of them. Kix rallies the team, they need to move fast. People are still out there counting on them. And with that, Kraut and his knights lead the way into the tunnel. Kix glances back outside, hoping Leia is doing okay out there. Meanwhile, Leia is still in the thick of it, holding off those Sasquatches. She gathers blood from a fallen beast, using it to light a massive fire to lure in every Sasquatch nearby. But suddenly, she's hit with a massive problem. Her fellow assassins have finally caught up to her, but Leia, she won't hesitate to take them down. Just moments later, one of the assassins finishes drafting a secret report on everything they just discovered. Since no bodies were found, they assume the Sasquatches were successfully driven off the site. Looking at the facts, only one house in this entire region actually has the strength to repel a Sasquatch. Report finished, Their next move is to get this intel straight back to Kashurin. Little do they know, Leia is watching them closely from the shadows. She spots the assassin, sealing up the pouch that holds their secret letter. A classic technique that scouts use to protect their high-level reports. Leia wets her finger and holds it out, testing the wind to see exactly which way the breeze is blowing. Once she knows the direction, she pours the bottled Sasquatch blood she is carrying all over a nearby tree. Meanwhile, those Sasquatches are still near Leia's fire when the sudden scent of their dead kin hits them. It sends them into a total rage, and they charge straight toward where that smell is coming from. Exactly as planned, the monsters ambush the scouts and slaughter everyone except for a single lucky survivor. That last scout barely escapes, desperately scrambling up into the safety of the trees. But as he tries to flee, Leia's blade suddenly erupts through the center of his chest. He coughs up blood, struggling to see who stabbed him, but Leia just coldly shoves him right off the tree. The last surviving scout hits the dirt with a sickening thud, dead on impact. Leia quickly recovers the letter that those scouts had just finished writing. And she knows she needs to bring this information to Call as quickly as possible. She still has one problem, though: what to do with all these corpses. Should she let the monsters handle the cleanup, or take the time to hide the evidence herself? In the end, Leia decides to let the monsters handle the cleanup. As she speeds away, a massive Sasquatch arrives to feast on the scouts' remains. On the other side, Call tells his men they have nothing to fear, because the person who built this tunnel was a wizard. Since this place was meant for quiet research until his final days, it is essentially his retirement home, so Kix doubts they will run into any deadly traps here. Still, Kraut argues that it never hurts for them to keep their guard up. Call runs his hand along the wall, explaining that this tunnel was literally carved from the earth, formed by melting down raw stone and solid ground, and then letting it harden. Since there are no support beams, a high-level spell was definitely used. Essentially, they are looking at the work of at least a level 8 archmage. And if a man like that set a trap, everyone in this passage would be dead long before they even realized what happened. Soon, the narrow passage opens up into a massive, cavernous space that lies just ahead of them. Kraut orders Thomas to stay and guard Kellix, while the rest of the team splits up to search the entire area. Kellix then reminds Kraut that any high-level potions they find must be handed over to treat their wounded immediately. Kraut agrees, ordering the search to begin while Klex takes a comfortable seat right on the throne. Thomas approaches him, curious about how someone like Kashurin managed to find these ancient ruins first. Kellix explains that it could be pure luck, or maybe someone tipped him off since they managed to acquire a magical crystal ball too. Thomas begins to suspect that this situation is anything but ordinary. Call agrees that while the tunnel's protective magic has faded over the years, it is still active. He is certain that no low-level mage from a Viscount's estate could ever hope to break it. Curiosity gets the better of Call as he asks Thomas, who actually rules over Viscount Servio. Thomas confirms that the High Lord is Marquis Antonio. The moment Kix hears that name, he knows they need to be fully prepared for what comes next. Soon, Kraut returns and tells Kix that he was right. The entire area is completely free of traps. Plus, he has brought back several intermediate-level potions they uncovered during their search of the ruins. Seeing the supplies, Kix immediately orders the knights to distribute the potions to their wounded comrades. Inside Kraut's head, he is definitely not happy about using up such expensive and rare items like this. Kix can tell exactly what he is thinking, but he refuses to stand by and watch his men die when they have life-saving potions to spare. Kix then shifts focus and asks Kraut if they found anything else. He reveals they found various gemstones, crystals for magic experiments, and a collection of rare herbs. He also mentions a few enchanted artifacts, mostly minor accessories with basic magic, but nothing truly valuable. But privately, Kix is convinced a top-tier artifact is hidden nearby, one that will actually trigger his status window. Right then, a gut feeling tells Kix exactly which direction he needs to head. But Kraut blocks his path, warning him not to wander off alone, while unknown dangers could still be lurking in the shadows. Kix is forced to back down, knowing there is no way to convince Kraut to let him go. Call approaches the wall and begins feeling around, searching for a hidden switch to a secret door. Kraut watches, completely baffled by what Kix is actually trying to do here. But when a secret door finally slides open, Kraut is absolutely stunned. To their utter surprise, we are looking at a surveillance room, allowing them to monitor every single corner of these ancient ruins. Despite the excitement, Kraut can't shake the feeling that something about this place is incredibly off. Kix frowns and asks him to explain what he means. Kraut notes that he has already searched every area. Yet he has never come across the strange room currently showing up on one of the monitors. Kix takes one look and tells Kraut this is actually a false ruin. Kraut is lost, so Kix explains that back in ancient times, it was very common. Tombs and wizard labs often built fake facilities nearby to lure away intruders or potential thieves. Most people are easily lured away by anything that looks remotely valuable. Kraut's eyes light up with pure excitement. They have finally found the legendary Kashurin family vault. Kix nods, confirming that this is exactly where they were headed all along. Kraut asks if what he means is they can take the secret funds without actually stepping foot inside the vault. Kix confirms it, though he's only ever seen this trick on a game screen before. Call knows exactly what to do. He walks over to the room's crystal ball and touches it. To make the artifact work, one must strongly visualize the specific function they desire within their own mind. Watching the ball glow, Kraut notes how skillfully Kix handles these complex artifacts. It's a sign he has talent for magic. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes from outside, and Kraut immediately rushes out to investigate. He discovers a brand new door has appeared, leading them straight into the false ruins. Let's see. All right, you and I are watching Call lay out the plan. They just need to enter those false ruins. Grab the silver Gerard has been hiding and haul it all up to the main floor. But Klex pulls Kraut aside to give him a proper crash course on managing the surveillance room. Call mentions that after a deep dive into those ruins, he spotted something unusual. A hidden door stands right there, the clear entrance to the secret silver mine they've been looking for. Call is stunned. He cannot believe the entrance was hiding inside the false ruins this whole time. It finally clicks for Kraut. This is how they have been mining silver without the royals ever knowing. A quick sweep confirms the truth. Kel says there is zero sign of anyone, meaning they only mine during very specific shifts. Kraut is not about to look the other way regarding the atrocities being committed here. He is convinced they are killing the miners, explaining why zero rumors have ever leaked out. Kix backs him up completely. They must ensure a tragedy like this never happens again. Call notes they have to kill the link to the crystal ball Gerard is currently holding. Klex steps up to the control panel to flip the security codes and settings so Gerard is permanently locked out of the system. Of course, Klex is not about to just let this go without adding a little fun. Call orders Kraut to link up with the knights and start moving that silver to the room. He reminds Kraut not to forget the scroll they prepared once the silver is all packed up. Right then, Call sees Kraut hesitating. He asks him straight up what exactly is the issue here. He reminds him the coast is clear since they have already swept every corner for danger. Kraut promises Kix he is going to finish the mission and return as fast as possible. Once Kraut heads out, Klex tinkers around a bit more before finding a hidden compartment inside the room. Inside the secret space, he finds a familiar game item, a bracelet, but seeing it in real life, a totally new experience. Turns out this is the bracelet of Priest Alchemy the Great, a legendary piece of gear. If the wearer takes a fatal hit, a powerful defense barrier will shield them for 2 full hours. But be careful, one more heavy blow and that shield will shatter instantly. Plus, if you do not get actual medical treatment in time, you are still going to die. Once used, it takes a full week to recharge, and after 3 activations, it stops working entirely. Kix knows this artifact is the perfect gear for someone exactly like him. Since his combat power is low, this is basically like having 3 extra lives in his pocket. Kelix snaps the bracelet on, but then he notices some strange writing hidden inside the compartment. Kix tries to decipher the text, but to his surprise, it is written in a language he does not even fully recognize, but he manages to mutter one word, Hectoria. Wait, Kix remembers hearing that name before back when he was still playing the game. It hits him, Hectoria was the goddess who first taught magic to all of humanity. Kix realizes there was never a scene like this in the original game story. This makes us wonder, is the world changing simply because he is actually there now? He touches the script, triggering a weird signal that suddenly yanks Kix into a dark void. Pure panic sets in as he falls through the darkness until he faces a giant eye surrounded by burning flames. Call is stunned. You and I can see it. This radiance feels divine, just like the legends. Because if so, then Call can't help but wonder, are these dancing flames actually the gods themselves? But then bam, a violent no screams inside his head, hitting him with pure agony. A vision flashes. He sees Hectoria being brutally punished by her fellow deities. Turns out, Hectoria was a goddess who threw it all away just to be human. She's stubborn, refusing to back down no matter the cost. The leader of the gods grants her request, but with a catch. It feels like her very skin is being flayed off. And Call, he's linked to her mind, feeling every single ounce of that torment. The agony is too much. He lets out a blood-curdling scream as his mind begins to fracture. Once the brutal stripping of her divinity ends, the gods coldly inform Hectoria that she's been demoted to a mere demigod. From now on, she'll be nothing but an object of pure hatred and bottomless contempt. Even the humans she loved will despise her, ensuring her new life is nothing but absolute misery. Those arrogant gods can't wait to watch her final, pathetic spiral into despair. With that image fading, Kleck snaps back to reality. Suddenly, a status screen appears right in front of him, an authority-level skill. Call loses it. The system confirms it. He's just inherited a fragment of Hectoria's very first divine authority. He's also gifted the goddess's own Feather Dagger, an artifact that triggers hidden potential to absolutely wreck nearby enemies. Of course, the carnage scales directly with the user's level. Best part, the attack is completely unavoidable. Call is reeling. Most skills go from F rank to S rank, but this is different. But unique skills exist, sure, but an authority, that's in a league of its own. We're talking class 10 power, the kind only literal demigods are supposed to wield. It's the very core of a being's identity. Mastering an authority is the only path to class 10. Then, Kelix notices something else hidden there. The system chimes in, absorbing that fragment just caused his soul rank to skyrocket. His level jumps from 11 straight to 18. Now that is what I call a massive boost. Looking at the evidence, Kix realizes the truth. Hectoria was the one who summoned him to this world. Turns out, only an authority can wound a god, and he's just been handed that exact power. Basically, he's been drafted to hunt down and kill the other gods on Hectoria's behalf. Like always, Kix starts laughing like a total maniac. He finally knows the game's ultimate end goal. He usually hates being a puppet, but this time, he doesn't mind. Why? Because he's hellbent on clearing this game, no matter whose blood he has to spill. Kraut arrives, and Kix immediately asks if the heavy lifting is finally done. Kraut just gestures and Kix's jaw drops. There are crates everywhere, an absolute mountain of loot. Kraut points out 6 massive crates, overflowing with gold coins. We're talking 30,000 gold pieces minimum. Call is genuinely stunned. Even for him, this is way more than he expected. Then there's the silver, 420 crates worth over 100,000 gold. Not a bad haul. Kraut is stressed. He is spiraling over how they are supposed to haul all this heavy treasure out. But look, Kix is not worried at all, because he just unlocked the inventory skill, and it is a massive power-up for him. So, Call decides he is going to give the new ability a test run with these crates. While Kraut is over there losing his mind, Call calmly tells him to just pile everything together. Once that is done, Klex tells Kraut to get everyone ready for the long journey back home. In the back of his mind, Kraut is still baffled. How will they move those crates? Kix knows he cannot explain the system to him, so he decides he needs a solid cover story fast. When Kraut returns to say everyone is ready, he asks again, what is the plan for all this loot? Klex tells him to relax, claiming he just found a rare subspace bracelet hidden within the ruins. Call then holds up the defensive bracelet he found earlier, promising him that it is going to have massive storage space since it is a legendary, top-tier artifact from the past. Kraut totally buys the lie, but before he can start screaming, Call tells him to stay quiet to keep it a secret. Kraut nods along, realizing that if an artifact is this valuable, it is definitely better if the word does not spread. He heads outside to keep watch, leaving Kelix alone to finally focus his mind on the magical object. The second he does, a glowing status window pops up. And as we watch, the inventory storage space manifests. He grabs a heavy silver bar and stashes it right into the void. Seriously, it works exactly like it did in the game. Kix wastes no time and starts shoving every single piece of loot inside, stacking them up perfectly. Kix lets out a massive sigh of relief, one less thing to worry about on this quest. Kix heads back to the surface to meet his squad, and they all greet him with huge smiles. Kraut reports they are ready to go, but Kix stops him. Has Leia made it back yet? Kraut says no, claiming Leia probably betrayed them and ran off. Honestly, he never trusted her from the very start. This finally gets a reaction out of Kix, who asks if he really thinks that Sasquatch retreat was just a random coincidence. When Kraut hears that Leia actually volunteered to take on the monster hideout all alone, his jaw drops. That is a suicide mission. Kraut admits he never thought much of her before. But even so, he does not want her to go out like that. Call mentions that he actually wanted to try a different way, but reminds Kraut that he was the one who called his plan a reckless adventure. Deep down, Kraut is feeling pretty terrible now. He had judged that unverified method as way too dangerous. But in the end, Call was right. Since Leia is still missing, Call is certain that she has run into some serious trouble. He points out that Leia's sacrifice saved them all from a total disaster earlier. And now it is our turn to save her. Call looks to his knights. Are they with him? The knights are stunned into a heavy silence. But Kraut catches the vibe and shouts that they will follow whatever orders their lord gives them. The rest of the men roar back, agreeing that they need to get Leia back. Those knights are now fully pumped and ready to help Kix out. All right, Call orders Kraut to handpick a rescue team while the rest of the group hides in the basement. Deep down, Klex is terrified for Leia. He's not sure if that boss monster finally got her, or if those former colleagues of hers managed to track her down. But he's betting it's the Sasquatch. After all, her old crew has no idea they're even in this area. Besides, Leia was always a pro at covering her tracks. There's just no way she'd be clumsy enough to get caught. The real problem eating at Kix right now is actually finding where Leia went. Once the group assembles, Klex informs Kraut they're heading straight for the Sasquatch boss to get some payback. Kraut's jaw drops. Kix just hands him a bunch of strange herbs, ordering him to boil them in oil and coat all their weapons with the mixture. Kraut asks what these plants are, but Kix just tells him to shut up and follow orders. He asks Kraut if he's still got gripes. Soon, they reach the den where the females and young stay. Kelix realizes the males must be out there hunting for Leia, since she wrecked their home, or maybe they're just out scouting for food. Klex orders the knights to attack the females first. The males will definitely charge back to help. Kraut finally realizes the plan. They'll use the returning males to track down where Leia is. But Kraut is still nervous. These Sasquatch monsters are legendary for being tough to kill. But Kix tells him to just watch. That poison on their blades is about to do something crazy. Kraut and his knights finally launch their assault against the female group. While the battle rages, Kelix notices the males are already sprinting back to the cave. He tells Thomas to stay hidden. All they need are those fresh tracks. as soon as the males disappear into the cave. Klex gives Thomas the signal, it's time to go. Now, following the fresh prints left by the male Sasquatches, Call and Thomas have a clear path. To pick up the pace, Thomas throws Klex on his back and rockets into the distance. Thomas then teases Klex, asking if he's got a crush on Leia since she's so stunning. Kix sidesteps the question, telling Thomas to stay focused. They're not there to gossip right now. Thomas admits he never thought Leia would step up for such a suicide mission. Call nods. Leia must have known they couldn't pull this off without her help. See, the first massive event in this game is the invasion of the Joro Kingdom. And the faction that carries the most weight during this war is the Mountain Rangers. Kix assumed they were just volunteers, but now he's seeing the truth. They're actually a secret force that Servio has been carefully building up. Meanwhile, Kraut and his squad have absolutely crushed the Sasquatches. That poison made this victory a total landslide. Before they start celebrating too hard, Kraut reminds the men they need to go meet up with Kix. With that, they charge toward Kix's location. Kraut can't help but admit just how much he respects the guy. He prays that Kix is safe, but you and I know the truth, Leia is at death's door. Seconds later, Call and Thomas finally find her. She's bleeding out with two wolves ready to strike. Thomas explodes with fury, hunting down those wolves to rip them apart in a blind rage. Meanwhile, Call drops to his knees beside Leia, trembling with fear. He desperately searches for a sign of life, realizing her wounds are much deeper than he first feared. But then, he prepares a mid-level potion. If her skin reacts, it means she can still be saved. Call pours the liquid over her, and the results are looking positive. He lets out a massive sigh of relief. Now, he just needs to get her to actually swallow the medicine so her body can truly start to recover. Thomas returns shortly after, announcing that he has wiped out every last monster. Call thanks him for the backup and asks for help carefully turning Leia over. He feeds her the potion, and before long, her skin begins to look healthy again. Not long after, Kraut and the rest of the crew arrive. Call beams because you and I can see they arrived just in time. 1 week later, back at Chicken's castle, we find Call pushing himself, jogging lap after lap around the training grounds. He remembers that his current level is 18, since the average combat level for a healthy adult male is level 20. Level 18 is honestly not bad for a boy who is only 15. Kraut and Russell are nearby, observing his progress. Russell admits Call's improvement is insane given how little time he has actually had to train. He notes Call's naturally gifted physique, and Kraut cannot help but agree with that. He remarks that Klex is a completely different person after that ruin expedition. Kraut even wonders if the boy is secretly taking some enhancement. But Call overhears them. He knows this level-up journey is only just beginning. Kraut asks Russell when they can finally start Call's real swordsmanship training. But Russell tells him to slow down. Priority number 1 is letting the boy's body fully recover first. Call walks over, and Kraut is shocked the kid finished his routine so quickly. Call mentions business at the Magic Tower, leaving Kraut wondering what he wants with those mages. He heads off to wash up, acting totally casual. But he reminds Kraut to get ready for their visit to the tower branch. Once Collex leaves, Russell starts teasing Kraut about his change in attitude. He points out that Kraut finally seems to trust the kid's instincts. Kraut admits he does not have all the answers yet, but one thing is crystal clear. And that is the fact that Klex is exceptionally talented. He adds that Klex genuinely cares for his people and domain. That loyalty is why Kraut refuses to let any lingering doubts hold him back. Russell mentions his initial plan was simply to keep an eye on the boy. But right now, he is struggling just to keep up with Call's rapid-fire actions. Still, Kraut believes the kid needs a mentor's guidance, since his authority is not fully established yet. Russell notes it is expected, since Kix is only 15 and lacks a formal title. That is why he is certain Call must finish his coming-of-age ceremony to reach Class 4 immediately. Kraut has total faith in the boy, believing that with his steady progress, reaching Class 4 should not take too long. Russell admits after Corin's death, he feared the territory would fall into total chaos. But he never imagined a leader like Kix would appear to stabilize the entire situation. He finishes by saying that the son of a lion is always a lion himself. Later on, all right, let's watch as Call and crowd finally reach the magic tower in Shikin territory. As soon as the attendant swings the door open to greet them, she is totally stunned to see a pretty boy and a jacked, handsome dude. She straight up tells Kix that she has zero clue who he actually is. But since he is beautiful, he will always be welcome here. She leads them to some prime seats before rushing off to brew some tea. She sets down the cups and flash, heats that tea kettle in a literal heartbeat. Watching her work, Call immediately realizes this lady is a Class 5 mage. But why is a top-tier talent like her stuck in this dusty, run-down branch? Kix pulls up the system to check her stats. Her name is Rosen Dreamwalker. A 32-year-old lady who is a Class 5 mage, exactly as Kix predicted. Call cannot hide his shock, so Rosen asks why he is acting so hyped up. Kix admits he is just surprised, such a powerful mage is stuck in the sticks. He adds that she is also incredibly charming, making Russell wonder if Klex likes older women. Klex tells Rosen that being able to heat a teapot in an instant is proof of amazing skill. Call goes on, saying that it is nearly impossible for someone in their 20s to reach this level without being the master's disciple. Rosen hears that and nearly loses her mind with joy, though she admits she is not in her 20s anymore. She mentions that while she might still look pretty youthful, it is definitely a mistake to call her a 20-year-old since she is over 30. Call keeps teasing, asking for her beauty secrets because there is no way she looks 30. Rosen then replies she does nothing serious, she just makes sure to sleep well and always washes her face with pure water. Kix compliments her, saying her beauty must be all natural if that is really all she is doing. Before Rosen gets totally swept away by his smooth talking, she asks Kix what brings him to the magic tower. Kix then says he is there to buy an explosion scroll. The second Rosen hears that, she immediately marks Kix down as a VIP customer. Kix wants 30 scrolls, and Rosen says that will run him 600 gold coins. But she decides to offer him a special discount since he is such a handsome boy. Instead of 600 gold, she tells him 500 will do just fine. Kix is thrilled, finally realizing that having a top-tier face comes with some major perks. He asks if this discount will cause her trouble, but she just laughs it off. She explains that even if this magic tower looks like trash, a branch manager's authority is the same no matter where you go. Call mentions he has one more request, and Rosen tells him to lay it on her. Call acts like it is a bit tough to bring up, but he tells Rosen that he needs to borrow some of the tower's reserve funds. Now, you and I are probably wondering the same thing. How much does he actually need? Call drops the bomb. He wants 60,000 gold. Rosen immediately spit-takes her drink in pure, unfiltered shock. She explains she cannot just dip into the reserves as she pleases, but Call reassures her he knows that. But he tells her that, in exchange for the massive loan he is asking for, he is prepared to leave a mountain of gold and silver coins behind as collateral. Even as he promises, he is only borrowing the cash. He is absolutely planning to pay back interest too. Short-term or not, this is business. Klex makes sure Rosen knows this is a real loan. Klex refuses to pay Gerard's debt with the same gold he just stole. If he did, the guy would immediately figure out who the thief was. Call knows only the magic tower has the reach to lend him 60,000 gold. He needs that money now, no matter the cost. But then Rosen says his request is just too much. Call freezes. Did he miscalculate how much she liked him? Call's nerves are on edge until Rosen drops a hint. There might be one way to do this. She explains that this specific branch operates without the usual oversight from the main tower. Because of that, she suggests they keep this deal strictly between themselves. She lets him know they won't face any trouble if he pays it back within 6 months. But she warns him that if those 6 months pass without payment, They will sell every bit of his collateral to cover the debt. Call just smiles. Everything is finally falling right into place for him. He knew these mages were always desperate for research funding. Plus, he could tell Rosen was itching to get her hands on that interest. Call bows low to her, accepting the terms with a polite nod. Inside, Klex is thrilled. That debt with Gerard is as good as gone. Later, Gerard gets word that a patrol near the vault has vanished. He demands a map of the area immediately. One look at the map, and his face goes pale. Something is very, very wrong. He screams at his guards to gear up. They are heading to the highlands immediately to find out what happened. When they arrive, they hit a wall. A massive, terrifying golem stands in their path, sending the guards into a panic. Their commander tries to keep the men from breaking rank. He yells that the golem might be huge, but its movements are slow. He orders the entire team to engage the monster from a safe distance. But the first squad that rushes in gets absolutely flattened by the monster. The men in back are paralyzed with fear. This golem is crushing high-rank warriors like they were made of glass. The carnage doesn't stop. The golem keeps tramping over every soldier in sight. No plan works. They are being tossed around and shredded like damp paper. The entire field is littered with bodies. Gerard watches the massacre with cold eyes. He does not care. The unit leader desperately tries to rally the survivors. He tells them golems are artificial, meaning a master mage is nearby. This means a Class 5 mage is in the area. The unit leader tries to tell Gerard they need to pull back and rethink the plan. He refuses. He tells them that no matter how many men die, they must find a way to get the Mari's tribute out within the next 3 days. Gerard roars at them, clear the path in 24 hours or rot in this forest. Back home, Call is smiling. He knows Gerard is busy opening his little gift. Nearby, Leia watches from the shadows, eyes locked on Rosen and Call. She wonders if there is something going on between them based on how they are acting. Soon, Kraut arrives with Leia trailing behind, and she definitely looks like she is in a bad mood. Kraut reports that the luggage is safe in the magic tower. Kelix offers a quick nod of thanks for the hard work. The young master asks Leia and Kraut to wait outside for a moment while he hands Rosen a mysterious box. Outside, Leia is curious. Why is Kelix so comfortable with a high-ranking mage like Rosen? Kraut keeps his mouth shut, playing dumb to avoid leaking secrets, even though he clearly knows more than he is letting on. But Leia can tell he is hiding something. Meanwhile, back inside the magic tower, things are getting interesting. The gift turns out to be a stunning bracelet, and Rosen is absolutely beaming as she accepts it. Call explains it is a small token of gratitude for her help in securing those essential funds so quickly. But then, Rosen warns him to keep this deal quiet. If the central tower gets involved, they will be buried under mountains of annoying paperwork for months. Besides, there is no guarantee that the higher-ups would even grant permission in the first place. In reality, Call sees right through her. She just doesn't want the central tower snatching away the massive interest from this private deal. He doesn't mind, though. As long as he gets what he needs, he'll play along perfectly. Rosen admits she is thrilled with their arrangement. Deals like this, they are always more than welcome in her book. Ever since Calix started buying their scrolls, their overall sales have been hitting record highs every single day. Then she casually asks where exactly he used all those powerful scrolls. Calix catches on immediately. She is fishing for info, trying to figure out his next big move. She clearly suspects he is preparing for a full-scale war. Let's see how he dodges this. He keeps his cool, telling her he has zero plans for anything even remotely violent. He simply claims he was replenishing the stock they burned through during their recent mining excavation project. Rosen is floored. Who uses top-tier, expensive magic scrolls just to dig a hole in the ground? It's pure madness. She jokingly asks if he found a gold mine. Calix realizes she's getting too close and decides to end the chat. He promises her that they will be doing business much more often now. Rosen smiles, assuring him she is definitely looking forward to their future deals. They manage to walk away with 6 bonds, each worth 100 gold. That is a massive haul for one day. Call is visibly relieved. With this kind of money, settling the territory's heavy debt will finally be a breeze. Now, the real fun begins. I cannot wait to see Gerard's face when he realizes his precious secret slush funds have been totally swiped. Every move has been calculated. Call is determined to make Servio pay for every single thing he suffered in his past life. Despite all the progress, he knows this is just the warm-up. The true revenge plan, he hasn't even begun to scratch the surface of that yet. Meanwhile, up in the highlands, the warriors finally start gaining some real momentum against that massive golem. They drag the beast down and move in for the kill, aiming straight for its glowing power core. With one final, heavy blow, the core shatters, and the stone giant is completely destroyed. But victory wasn't cheap. The ground is littered with their fallen comrades. They lost far too many people today. The unit leader delivers the grim news to Gerard. The golems are gone, but the price was devastatingly high. 60% of the squad is dead. Gerard doesn't give a damn about the casualties. He just screams at his men to open the ancient gates as fast as humanly possible. Once they reach the entrance, he grabs the crystal ball, the key needed to unlock the treasures waiting within. Suddenly, a red warning flashes. Error, unauthorized user, the system is rejecting him. The ruins flare to life, announcing a countermeasure that will activate in exactly 180 seconds. Gerard panics, desperately trying over and over, but the error message refuses to go away. As he starts losing his mind, one of his subordinates rushes over to tell him that getting to safety is the only priority now, especially since that countdown has already hit 59. The warriors rush Gerard to a secure spot, and just as the clock hits 0, the ruins interception program kicks in. It looks like this countermeasure is about to summon every single monster nearby. Seeing this, Gerard and his crew completely lose their minds again. Back at the estate, Call asks Leia what she thinks happens to those who dare betray Servio. He's curious, does Servio ever overlook the mistakes of his own subordinates? Leia shuts that down fast, revealing that Servio is a total perfectionist. Leela points out that Servio absolutely never tolerates failure. And since Servio will definitely want Gerard dead once he learns the secret funds have been stolen, Gerard will do anything to stay alive, and Leia knows a desperate man won't hesitate to betray even Servio to save his own skin. Hearing this, a sinister plan immediately starts brewing inside Call's mind. Leia realizes right then that the young master is already cooking up another one of his schemes. Deep down, Call feels like something is missing, though he can't quite put his finger on it yet. Back in the highlands, Gerard's men managed to clear the monsters after a brutal struggle, but they lost nearly their entire force doing it. Gerard doesn't give a damn, coldly telling the squad leader to just push ahead without looking back. He'll just have to build a new shadow force since the current one is finished. Then, Gerard orders his men to open the door. Specifically, he wants them to blow it wide open with an explosion scroll. Seconds later, boom, the door is blasted to pieces. First is the content creation process. After having an idea, I will create an outline for each part. This is the idea. And this is the outline. After checking the outline, checking this outline carefully, I start writing detailed content based on the outline above. So, this is my handwritten script. After I based it on that outline, after having the handwritten script, once this is done, we put it into a translation website. This is our internal translation website. We designed this website specifically